Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Full-Time Mage. Start by getting the White Tiger Pendant. Chapter 81. Ding Yumian's words revealed a certain sense of chilling. The reason why human beings are intelligent creatures is because of the awakening of self-awareness. When there is a person who can wantonly flip through the most unbearable secrets in your memory and control your consciousness, it is undoubtedly the greatest fear. Life and death are nothing in front of you. Even Lu Jun's psychic system is only a guarantee, and he cannot completely avoid being peeped at his memory unless he has cultivated to a very high level. Not to mention the famous Holy City, the defectors targeted by the 5 major magic associations and the Court of Alien Judgments, no one can escape the punishment. Because this is the highest will representing the entire human race. As long as there is a little rational person, knowing this situation must stay away. But Lu Jun smiled, and calmly said, "What if I am also destined to be blacklisted by the Holy City's Court of Disciplinary Judgment? I have 2 systems at each level. And I have a strange magic system." He didn't reveal the existence of the metal element, but judging from the fact that he was born with 2 elements, Ding Yumian should have guessed it with his ice and snow intelligence. After working together for a long time, he will naturally know. Lu Jun has no scruples. The first is to change your heart. The other party has revealed the most core secrets. There is nothing you can't believe. The second 2 are currently hiding very well. As long as you follow up carefully, the Kraken Empire will invade in 8 years. Everything was fine before. Hearing that, Ding Yumian was thoughtful. No wonder Lu Jun was able to fight all day and night. Some people once speculated that he had a natural talent, but it was not reflected in the power of magic, but in terms of battery life, which was many times the magic power of ordinary people. That's why those people didn't think that Lu Jun could be defeated with just 1 more spirit seed. It's too perverted. If something happened, they planned to create a talent ranking list, and Lu Jun would definitely be in the top 5. Of course, now she knows that the endurance talent is essentially 2 element, 4 element per rank. Wait, she found a blind spot. Could it be Lu Jun's 4 element mid-level? This is a bit scary. Ding Yumian thought to himself that even if his psychic system is at full strength, he may not be able to beat Lu Jun. In addition to the water on the surface, the curse, a hidden psyche, and a weird magic system, it is a magic tool. Ding Yumian came back to his senses, and said with a little self-mockery, "Then we are half a catty, and we are destined to be destroyed. What do you plan to do in the future?" She was silent for a while, then asked, "Or what do you think is the meaning of life?" "In the future? Are you talking about the Holy City?" Hearing this, Lu Jun was surprised. Seeing the girl in the white dress with confused and sad eyes, he said speechlessly, "What are you thinking? The meaning of life lies in living. If those old Bidens in the Holy City dare to disturb my life, I will not wrong myself, destroy them sooner or later." He said earnestly, "What are you afraid of? If you are in a hurry, go to the Holy City to play and explode yourself. If you die, you will bite off a mouthful of flesh and blood." Lu Jun has discovered that Ding Yumian has psychological problems, and the original book shows a strong tendency to self-destruct. The so-called tranquility and kindness are just appearances derived from a self-hating personality. Now that he has been in contact with it, he feels it deeply, and must reverse this concept. Ding Yumian was a little surprised. What she had seen and heard since she was a child, people around her were telling how powerful the Holy City was and how the 5 continents magic association was supreme. Some taboos. This caused great pressure in her heart, and she was unwilling to hurt others in every possible way, and continued to self-denial. Today, it was the first time she saw an arrogant person who threatened to destroy the Holy City and the 5 continents magic association. Thinking back to Ding Yumian, Lu Jun has done all kinds of things since he entered the school. He is worthy of Lu Rentu, and his personality and style are in the same line. But for some reason, she met another person who had a similar experience, and when she heard these impassioned words, her heart was soft and touched, as if she was relieved and the burden was relaxed. She pursed her lips and said with a smile, "To overthrow the Holy City, thanks to you daring to say it." Don't believe me. During this frank chat, Lu Jun seemed to relax completely, and expressed his bold thoughts that even his sister Lu Mei hadn't understood yet. He said, "I know Al-Quds too well. Those people are just Western robbers. We want to establish our right to speak. I know some people, like you and me, have extraordinary potential. Together, we will definitely be able to stand up to each other when we grow up. Ding Yumian was in a daze, thinking in a daze, could it be that this man had planned to resist from the moment he awakened from magic? He was really too courageous, and brought a strong sense of security. At this moment, she closed her eyes, and another voice in her heart was calling. After hearing what Lu Jun said, she became even more excited, wishing to rush out and take the lead. When Ding Yumian opened her eyes were a little sharper and her pupils were firm. She said, "You were right, we can neither give up resistance, nor have the fantasy of never finding out, curl up in a corner, and accept it peacefully, protection from others. We have to plan ahead and be prepared to burn jade and stone together." Lu Jun was obviously shocked. He thought he would persuade him for a while. Why did Ding Yumian change his mind so quickly? Surprised, Ding Yumian raised her red lips and stared straight at Lu Jun with a pair of beautiful eyes. Her demeanor suddenly became flamboyant and extremely aggressive. The emotions displayed in your mind claim to understand everything, calm, then you really know me. Seeing this, Lu Jun somehow felt a sense of being seen through. Before he could open his mouth, Ding Yumian stretched out his slender and white hands, and said with a smile at the corner of his mouth, "We are happy to cooperate." Lu Jun hesitated, so he stretched out his hand, gently grasped the cold and jade-run 4 fingertips, and released them as soon as he touched them, and said, "It's a happy cooperation." Then, Ding Yumian smiled and said, "Do you have any thoughts now?" Lu Jun felt that the rhythm had become controlled by the other party. He didn't care about these trivial matters, and pondered for a moment. We are still weak now, and I know those people are the same. At the moment we have to be more pragmatic, that is, to improve ourselves as much as possible. Ding Yumian covered her mouth and smiled lightly. "That is to say, you were just fooling around just now, drawing big cakes for me, and beating chicken blood." Here. Lu Jun was a little embarrassed, and then remembered something, and said enthusiastically, "I have a way to make us grow quickly. Do you still remember the outbreak of your beast competition?" "Yeah." Ding Yumian seemed to have regained her original temper, bit her lips and said, "I remember, I was sorry at that time." Lu Jun felt strange. The other party's temperament was a bit fickle. He said, "It's okay, I just want to say that your mental oppression has a very good polishing effect on me. I want to sharpen my will under your mental pressure from now on, and artificially improve my spiritual realm." As soon as this remark came out, Ding Yumian was a little bit taken aback. He could still play like this. There were very few psychic mages in China, and the natural improvement methods and resources were also scarce. Most of them practiced themselves. But after thinking about it for a while, she had to admit that this was a good idea, so she nodded and agreed, "Yes, you can set a time, and I will make time occasionally." When Lu Jun heard that Ding Yumian agreed, he was delighted. His curse and psychic systems both needed spiritual bonuses. With the help of this psychic victim, he would soon be able to improve at a high speed, so there is no need to worry. It's just an external plugin, a third-party plugin, a plugin. What are you thinking? He quickly shook his head. This kind of gameplay can only be used by people suffering from spiritual disasters, and the number of victims of disasters is rare, and it is rare to meet in 100 years if it is limited to the spiritual department. As for what Ding Yumian said about taking time out, it's normal. Others have to practice and improve, so it's impossible to give you all the time. However, Lu Jun can't accept the other party's gift with peace of mind, and mutual progress is a win-win cooperation. It just so happened that he had some ideas that he couldn't accomplish with his own mental state and control, so he simply told Ding Yumian to let her improve. At this time Ding Yumian suddenly said, "I always feel that you are thinking about something impolite." "Ah ha ha ha." Lu Jun laughed a few times, thinking in his heart that this is too sensitive. He is a spiritual mage who can hide his thoughts. If other boys are afraid of being red minds, he can't stand it at all, and he doesn't know who will dare to marry in the future such a wife. He changed the subject and said, "I'm good at improving my cultivation, but I have some ideas about your strength increasing." Ding Yumian was puzzled, blinked her big eyes, tilted her head, her silky black hair like a princess slid down her chest, which seemed like a playful wife. Seeing this, Lu Jun throbbed, then suppressed his mind, and enthusiastically shared his spiritual shock and change with the other party, which is the self-created magic spiritual sword. Can save many heart swords. Of course, he wasn't sure that the other party could make it, and the magic energy of the gold system was the key to tempering the sharpness. Hearing this, Ding Yumian became interested and said, "It's a good idea, no one thought of it before." In the end, before Lu Jun gave her some pointers, she stared at her eyes, and some kind of powerful spiritual force erupted. Between her brows, a strand of transparent and crystal clear needles floated, and a dangerous aura came over her. Anyway, Lu Jun was terrified, his brows were tingling, and his sixth sense was a strong warning. He stared at Ding Yumian's hand in astonishment, and said in surprise, "How did you do it?" Ding Yumian said strangely, "Isn't it just a matter of a moment to figure out the trick? This trick is good, but it is not very useful to me. I just crush it with mental strength, and it is the same as destroying the soul." Lu Jun was speechless. It only took a few seconds, and he learned it in an instant. His spiritual talent is amazing. Then, he thought of his other assumptions. His heart was hot, and there was a person suffering from a spiritual disaster. Couldn't he just act as an experimenter and quickly verify his various guesses? When his spiritual cultivation has reached the realm, Ding Yumian can pass it on to him in reverse. Isn't this equivalent to someone chewing the knowledge, and then spit it out to feed, so that it is easy to digest? This is a win-win situation for each other. Lu Jun couldn't help but said, "Do you know that, Yuan Shen, the fugue is too empty, there is also the palace of the soul, multiple personalities." Yuan Shen. Ding Yumian didn't understand. After Lu Jun introduced the concept in detail, she pursed her lips and said euphemistically, "I practice magic, not novels about cultivating immortals." Hearing the meaning behind the words, Lu Jun stopped talking and scratched his head, as if he was really whimsical. Ding Yumian gave a and said comfortingly, "Some ideas are not realistic, and some can be practiced, but I am only at the middle level of cultivation, and I can do very little. In the future, high level and super level may be different." She hesitated for a while, and decided to confide frankly, "The primordial spirit and multiple personalities you mentioned are actually the concept of soul personality. As a disaster victim, I have already grasped it." Lu Jun was astonished, rather surprised. The soul personality didn't appear until the late stage, and Mo Fan became the evil sage king, so he had the 8 good and evil soul characteristics. Wait, he dug out one thing from his spiritual memory. Ding Yumian is the only human being with multiple souls. She has condensed multiple souls with extremely high soul quality. Even if the future dies, the soul will never die. As long as it is willing, it can exist forever in the world, which is already more magical than the immortality of the primordial spirit in the Taoist realm. The vengeful soul personality personally led the sea monster army back to the demon city, and almost flattened the coast, but fell into the backstab of the kind soul, and self-destruction. This ending has to be embarrassing. What's wrong? Ding Yumian felt a little pity for the man in front of him, so he yelled. "It's nothing," Lu Jun said with a complicated expression. "No wonder I felt that you had a repetitive temper just now, like a schizophrenic. I didn't expect." Ding Yumian blinked, and said with a strong smile, "I do have multiple soul types, and I can handle different situations and people perfectly. That's why I asked you if you really understand me." With multiple personalities, he feels that Ding Yumian has too many buffs. Marrying one wife is equivalent to marrying several wives. Tisk tisk tisk. The two sat in the coffee shop like this, chatting from morning to afternoon, constantly putting forward conjectures about the psychic system, communicating, and vetoing improvements. Lu Jun has an insight into the abilities, spiritual talents, multiple souls, and mind eyes that affect the thinking and emotions of all living beings. In the end, it wasn't just his mind full of distracting thoughts. Even Ding Yumian's heart was quite uneasy. His face was reddish, and under the red glow of the evening, he was extremely glamorous. She has never felt that someone's ideas are so close to her own. Full of inspiration, the two discussed with each other, explored the avenue, immersed in the infinite beauty, and enjoyed it. I don't know if it was the first time she opened her heart to outsiders, or it was the influence of her great desire to pursue knowledge that surpassed the desire of the human body. On the other side, Lu Jun also thought of a word, Dao Yu. With the vastness of the road, the two supported each other and searched up and down. When he woke up from the ocean of inspiration dry-mouthed, he glanced at the sky and found that it was already night. He smiled at Ding Yumian and said, "It's not long, why don't today just end like this?" Ding Yumian returned to his senses. Her face was ruddy. The two chatted for a day when they first met, and they nodded slightly upon hearing this. It's so late, do you want me to see you? Lu Jun originally wanted to leave immediately, but he thought it would be impolite, so he scratched his head and asked politely. No need. Ding Yumian stood up, straightened her skirt. Mimo said with a smile, I live in the girls' dormitory, don't you want to visit too? The two know each other a lot and can afford to joke. Haha, that's unnecessary. Lu Jun shook his head resolutely, be careful on the road. Yeah, Ding Yumian snorted softly, waved her hand and said goodbye, goodbye. Immediately, he watched the graceful back of the woman in the white skirt walk towards the end of the darkness. The extremely simple and elegant skirt could hardly conceal the plump and tall figure. Seen from behind, the full buttocks had an astonishing curvature, and the white skirt clinging to it gave it a bit of charm. For the sake of being polite, Lu Jun took a glance and then retracted his gaze, turned around and walked away on the wind track. Both of them were oblivious to it, chatting for a whole day about how much trouble it caused in the school forum. Maybe even if they learned about it, they didn't care about it with their personalities, they were frank and frank. Lu Jun walked back while thinking about the exchange just now. It has to be said that Ding Yumian's talent has given him great inspiration. In the future, he can follow the other party's template to improve the psychic system, reach a super level, and have terrifying lethality. Maybe it contains the profound meaning of becoming an emperor. The other party has identified certain conjectures as a topic just now, and may learn it by himself after researching it. When he got home, he was surprised to see that the light in the Jinyuan apartment was still on, and suddenly there was something wrong with him secretly. He was so absorbed in researching with Ding Yumian that he almost forgot that his sister was waiting. They still had a mission for the city's monster hunting team, but it turned out that Lu Mei was doing it all. It's difficult, why hasn't my sister gone to bed yet? Lu Jun pushed open the door anxiously, and saw Lu Mei wearing a black silk pajamas, sitting on the sofa, a pair of pure white jade legs folded up, her arms crossed her chest, the lace was raised high, milky white and plump almost overflow. Seeing this, he swallowed his saliva. The black pajamas complemented his plump, white and tender body, they were a perfect match, and the thin clothes made him charming and charming. Lu Mei's expression was originally tense, but when she saw this brat staring straight at her when she came back, her mature face quickly turned red, and she said angrily, what are you looking at? Hey, Lu Jun smiled stupidly, and quickly praised, my sister is very good looking, why did you go to bed so late today, the skin that got burned is not good. But Lu Mei was not drunk by her younger brother's ecstasy soup. She sneered and said, first, I'm a mage, so staying up late won't hurt my body. Second, you came back late tonight, what's going on? Ah ha ha. Lu Jun scratched his head and smiled awkwardly. I have urgent matters in the academy today, and I need to coordinate resources with Dean Xiao. Really? Lu Mei took out her mobile phone from her bosom, held it up and asked her younger brother, then, what is this? Lu Jun's eyes were sharp, and he saw that the photo on the phone was actually a picture of him and Ding Yumian sitting and chatting in a coffee shop. Due to the shooting angle, the two were very close, like a couple. He had a bad feeling in his heart and was sweating profusely. What should he do if he was misunderstood by his sister? Then, Jun Lu took a closer look and found that the source of the photo was the school forum. He was so shocked that he couldn't help asking, sister, when did you enter the school forum? Huh, Lu Mei crossed her legs, puffed out her chest and said in a strange manner, don't worry about it, how do you explain this? I worked hard on night duty, and you were chatting with other little girls and girls. Oh, it was still fighting back then. The girl who offered her hugs at the animal farm. Speaking of this, she didn't notice that her tone became sour at some point. Lu Jun was at a loss for words. Ding Yumian's secret must not be revealed. The more people who know it, the greater the chance of it being leaked, so he could only shut up with hatred. Seeing her younger brother standing at attention and being beaten without opening his mouth, Lu Mei was inexplicably a little irritable. She couldn't explain the reason, and she couldn't bear to scold her, so she could only purse her red lips and calmly said, it's normal to want to fall in love when you go to college. Just talk to me. After all, she got up from the sofa and was about to go back to her room. Wait, Lu Jun shouted quickly, thought for a while and said vaguely, it's really not what you think. It has a lot to do with it, I can't reveal the secret. After finishing speaking, he felt a little uneasy in his heart, wondering if his sister would believe his words. Lu Mei, who was in front of her, suddenly paused, and felt much more comfortable after hearing the explanation. She turned around and the black skirt twirled, like a flower blooming in the epiphyllum. She looked back and said angrily, "Okay, I believe everything you say, go to bed early, forgive you." Quote. At this scene, Lu Jun stared at his sister in a daze, his heart skipped a beat. Oh my god, who can resist this? He took a shower and went to sleep with excitement, but he suffered from insomnia all night. He kept replaying various scenes in his mind. For a while, he was talking with Ding Yumian, talking all day long. For a while, it was the night at Tang Yu's sister's hotel, and for a while, it was Lu Mei's day and night together, looking back and frowning. Smile. After getting up early in the morning, Lu Jun had faint dark circles under his eyes, and sighed, "I'm numb." Aggressive. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door of Jinyuan apartment. Lu Jun was a little puzzled, who was coming in the early morning. At the same time, the elder sister from the other suite also walked out. She had just woken up with a lazy demeanor, half of the suspenders of the pajamas slipped off, revealing the delicate collarbone, round jade shoulders, white and greasy. She yawned and said, "Who is it?" On the side, Lu Jun is vigilant by nature, his mind is touched by the nebula, the spiritual power of the second realm spreads, and he perceives the hard lake that exists outside. He has offended many people, so he has to be careful in everything. After chatting with Ding Yumian for a day, it's not that there is nothing to gain, at least he can go a step further and analyze the emotional differences between killing intent, hostility, and kindness. When Lu Jun noticed the peace of mind of the people outside the door, he relaxed. He stepped forward to open the door, but unexpectedly found that the person who came was a beautiful and noble woman with a delicate face, good-looking features, and a graceful figure. He hesitated and asked, "You are?" "Hello," the woman said kindly. "I'm Mu Nujiao from the Mu clan, so I don't take the liberty to disturb you." It turned out to be her. Lu Jun understood, a supporting actress in the original book. A year later, a middle-level dual line, now the same age as him, should also have a middle-level cultivation, the main focus of combat power in the early stage. In the future she will change her temperament to do education work. The shepherds call him the gift of a celestial being, and he is addicted to war like a devil. Lu Mei in the room heard this and came out, frowning slightly. "What's the matter, is it solicitation again?" As early as Lu Jun's bloody battle with thousands of freshmen, and these few days when he was in a coma, many aristocratic families from the Magic City came to invite the two siblings. In fact, commoner Sanren mages whose cultivation potential has reached this level are too rare, and they all want to recruit them. In the end, Lu Mei refused all of them. If she really wanted to follow the path of the aristocratic family, she would have joined in Bo City long ago. Mu Nujiao didn't take it seriously, and said generously, "That's right, I recruited on behalf of the Mu family." As soon as these words came out, Lu Mei gave up and said, "Forget it, we're not interested." "Okay, it doesn't matter." Mu Nujiao didn't bother, instead she acted as if she had completed a task, simply and neatly. Lu Mei and the two were stunned. In the past, the recruiters of the aristocratic family either spoke arrogantly and condescendingly, or spoke earnestly, courteous corporals, or even threatened and lured them. But they were all trying to win, and the powerful behind them exerted pressure. It was the first time I saw this kind of person who didn't care about failure at all. "It's a surprise," Mu Nujiao said with a smile. "Actually, if it wasn't for the request of the family, I wouldn't even want to come, and it's useless to come. If you are willing to join, the first dozen or so companies won't be defeated. Obviously, you want to be independent." Quote. She said slowly, "In comparison, I want to maintain friendship with you, and I am very optimistic about your future. If you want to rent the Galaxy Magic Tool or buy the Galaxy Pulse, you can discuss it with me. I will mobilize the relationship to help you build a platform. I think the friendship of the Shepherd family is what you need." Hearing what Mu Nujiao said, the two nodded. This attitude is actually more comfortable to get along with. Lu Jun thought inwardly that it was good. Indeed, he was the one with the best impression among the four great families in the original novel. The two sisters of the Mu family were shrewd and capable, with strong wrists, and there were no playboys under their rule. Speaking of it, Mu Nujiao blinked at Lu Jun and said, "I'm going to be admitted to Pearl University next school year, and you're still my senior. With his sister present, Lu Jun said calmly, "That's a coincidence." Mu Nujiao is also someone who knows how to read the atmosphere. She glanced at the two of them, and said with a sweet smile, "Then I won't bother you two, this is my business card." After a while, she left the piece of paper behind, and left gracefully. The two looked at each other, didn't care about this little episode, and went back to their rooms to practice. 3 months passed in a blink of an eye, and it was the middle of the semester. After the day Mu Nujiao visited, Lu Jun started to clock in at school normally. Although his reputation caused him to be looked at by many students during school, as time passed, the enthusiasm gradually subsided. Those aristocratic families and major forces no longer sent people to the door, obviously knowing the plan of the two siblings. Of course, no one has forgotten the night of the freshman beast fighting contest. They just hid their taboos and admiration in their hearts and reflected it in their actions. So his college life can be described as very chic. In the past 3 months, Lu Jun devoted himself to cultivation and hibernated honestly. After the limelight passed, he finally mastered the 2 middle-level magics of the soul system and the curse system as well as the gold and water systems, reaching the level that they can be released in 2 or 3 seconds. During the period, he met with Ding Yumian 2 or 3 times, using mental pressure to sharpen his will. Although the process was painful, he was pleasantly surprised that his mental strength really increased significantly, reaching the peak of the second realm. 2 years later, when the selection for the Battle of the Kingdom begins, it is possible to reach the 4 realms of the middle realm, which is equivalent to a soul seed, enough to be included in the high-level upstream powerhouse. It should be noted that when Zhongtu, the captain of the national team, first appeared on the stage, he only had a spiritual cultivation of 4 realms, a high-level curse system. And the curse is only one aspect of Lu Jun, he still has 3 departments. Today, he practiced as before, shifting his attention from the 2 elements of soul curse to the water element, striving to break through the second level. Outside the Jinyuan apartment, it was raining heavily, and there was plenty of water vapor, creating a comfortable environment for a water mage. The rain was not heavy, at most it was moderate rain, far worse than that night in Bo City. But the problem is that it has been raining for 3 days and 3 nights without a break, which is very unusual. Even if we are on the coast and there is plenty of water, it is already November, so the precipitation should be significantly reduced. Lu Jun stood up after meditating, looked at the gloomy weather, frowned, and was not delighted that the environment was suitable for cultivation. It should be noted that this month has already come to autumn. During the harvest season, a continuous drizzle fell, and the farmers couldn't grab the harvest, which was called a catastrophe. In addition, with the excellent sewer system in the capital city, urban waterlogging disasters are gradually appearing. Many people will never go out if they can stay at home. Immediately, Lu Jun turned on the TV, and the reporters on it reported that the major cities in the entire Yangtze River basin had experienced floods of varying degrees and suffered heavy losses. Some experts judged that a monarch-level monster appeared in the Yangtze River to make trouble, using the power of the ocean monsoon and flood season to cause continuous rain along the coast and invade human territory with high tides. What led to this disaster was, generally speaking, the demon borrowing the power of the sky. Lu Jun shook his head. The sovereign level is too far away, naturally someone will deal with it. There is no information about this disaster in the original book. Thinking about it, Mo Fan has devoted himself to cultivation this year, almost reaching the point where he doesn't know anything about the world. In addition, his cultivation base is low, so he can't join in the fun. He occasionally called Mo Fan in the past 3 months, but the other party didn't answer. It seemed that he was determined to come to the academy to drink cups after the completion of his martial arts. Unfortunately, Senior Lu's legend of a day and a night was a hurdle he couldn't pass. Squeak. Suddenly, the door opened, and there was a crisp sound of boots, accompanied by a strong cold air. Lu Mei came back with an umbrella. Her body was a little wet. She took off her high boots, put them on the shoe cabinet, shook off the moisture from the umbrella, and opened it to dry in the hallway. "How's the situation?" Lu Jun asked without turning his head. "Have you collected any information?" The elder sister said solemnly, "There are a lot of monster tribes emerging in the Wangpu River, and Chongming Island also has to fight against the sea monsters. There are not enough manpower. We don't need to ask for information. The Hunter Alliance will give it for free. We need to recruit folk mages. In the past few months, Lu Mei has been grinding for a long time at the middle level of the dual system and has reached the limit. The pulse of the galaxy must be obtained. The minimum price is 100 million. To be on the safe side, an extra 10 million is enough. Now that he is working in the urban management of the Demon City, including the previous ones, he has saved a total of 80 million, which is still tens of millions short. The siblings have been looking for a job hunting monsters in the wild. After investigating for a long time, they finally encountered this opportunity to intervene. It is obviously safer to follow the official action. The flood season of the Yangtze River happens frequently, usually from May to October. The flood demon tribes frequently erode both sides of the bank and are suppressed by humans. The lack of manpower this time is only due to the unexpected small flood season in November. That can be done. Anyway, we are on the Huangpu River. The highest appearance is the commander. The monarch is in Jinling, thousands of miles away, so it is very safe. Lu Jun's eyes lit up and he said, because of the Black Vatican, he hadn't gone out to hunt monsters for a long time, and the remnant souls stored in the White Tiger Pendant didn't increase at all. It just so happens that he is proficient in controlling the middle-level magic of the 4 departments, and he is very quiet and wants to sharpen his strength. In addition to the gold system being upgraded to the 4th level, the other 3 systems must also be upgraded. He is considering the next elementary level 4, choose the water defense of the water system, strengthen the defense, and be sure when to set off. Now, Lu Mei changed into a set of clothes in the room, tied a neat ponytail, and said neatly. Originally, Lu Jun wanted to call Ding Yumian, but after thinking about it, the other party was promoted entirely by talent, and did not need to be honed in battle, and it is better to hide the spiritual victims. In this way, Mo Fan and Qin Yu are on the bright side, Lu Jun on the dark side, and Ding Yumian in the deepest place, have one set of cards after another. Water Royal Circulation. When going out, Lu Jun cast 2 basic spells, and the blue water trench coats on the siblings' bodies were intertwined, absorbing the rainwater from the sky, without any moisture on their bodies. Braving the moderate rain, the 2 of them arrived at the meeting point in 10 minutes, the center of the Magic City, not far from the Huangpu River that runs through the city. They saw the roar of colorful spells in the rain in the distance, and the military mage suppressed the demon tribe. Hunters came here one after another, about 40 to 50 people, all middle-level mages, and the official member who waited first was a member of the tribunal. Surprisingly, it was Tang Yu. Hi, long time no see. The wavy long-haired girl has a curvaceous figure and a mature face full of various styles, saying hello to the siblings. Lu Jun was startled, and asked doubtfully, why did you come here from Hangzhou? Hey, you think I think so? Tang Yu sighed. The Hangzhou Judgment Council basically manages the entire southeast area. Just like firefighters, they go wherever there is an accident. Originally, I was going to be transferred to Jinling. After seeing your list submitted, I applied to come and act together. During the conversation, Lu Mei and the 2 suddenly realized. Then Tang Yu looked at the dozens of hunters present. Regardless of the small number, there were mid-level elites, but there was a high-level leader who could even compete against the leader. She said bravely, it's too late to reminisce about the old days, manpower is tight, we have to quickly block a ferry, Songjiang, a tributary of the Huangpu River. There are large forces in the mainstream to fight against those commanders, and they only need to face the overflow of monsters below the generals. In fact, if the super level of the Magic City can be dispatched, it will be much easier to settle, but there is a cost problem. This cost is not a labor cost or an employment cost. It is an overall and comprehensive problem of ruling costs. Human beings in France are very powerful. If you only look at it from the perspective of the demon family, they are the most powerful group. However, it occupies many places, surrounded by demon empires, and countless disasters occur every year, such as the flood season of the Yangtze River, the inversion of the East China Sea, the sediment of the Yellow River, sandstorms in the imperial capital, floods in the south, ice and snow in the north, etc., accompanied by the invasion of demons. This time is just a small episode among countless riots. Looking at other disasters across the country, manpower is tight. Therefore, when the cost of ruling exceeds a certain limit, which makes the top management feel heartache or the loss is not worth the loss, they will consider giving up, just like Bo City and Jinlin City. Lu Jun knew that the importance of the capital city, no matter what degree of invasion, must be defended. When the situation is not good, there will eventually be a super-level archmage to take action, and there is no doubt about the safety. Secondly, in Jinling, a group of super ranks had been organized long ago, and a net had been laid down to bring that flood demon monarch to justice, so they couldn't do anything for the time being. Tang Yu didn't talk nonsense, and led a group of elite hunters to the dam of a reservoir. In the rainy and gloomy weather, the water in this reservoir was constantly swaying, and the dam was shaking non-stop. The surface of the water is pitch black. If you look closely, there are huge crocodile shadows piled up. This is Wangpu Crocodile Demon. There are several leaders in this group, entrenched nearby. The government has considered cleaning up, but Wangpu is connected to the Yangtze River system, and the demons can't be killed. After cleaning up a group, new ethnic groups migrated in. Compared with the more powerful ethnic groups on one side, it is better to selectively leave the weaker ethnic groups. Anyway, it is easy to clean up. Controlling demons with demons and maintaining ecological balance have always been the philosophy of the military. Just like now, the main line of the crocodile demon group is in the Yangtze River. It is said that it is a sub-dragon monarch whose blood has been tempered to the peak, and is also the monarch of this turmoil. The Wangpu crocodile was provoked and also launched an invasion, but was blocked by numerous water valves and dams, and did not easily disturb the activities in the city. I saw these big crocodiles on the lake surface, all shaped like dragons. Their tails were covered with barbs like steel cones, their skin was thicker as if wrapped in hard mud and steel plates, and the servants were often 8 or 9 meters long. The warlord class is more than 10 meters long, like a small dragon, and its proportion is extremely high. 10 servants have a warlord, which is not surprising. When it emerges, it is densely covered on the lake, and the water quality can hardly be seen. Layer upon layer of scales shimmering with cold black light. In addition, the monsters in the water are generally 2 or 3 times stronger than the monsters on land, so this wave of shock is hard to deal with. Boom boom boom. The towering dam vibrated violently. Even the special material forged by magic, under the continuous impact of huge force, cracks appeared on the surface, and broken stones splashed everywhere. A team of more than a dozen military mages stood on the dam early and used various spells to bombard them, but they couldn't stop the raging crocodiles. They fell in the black scale tide, and were fleeting. They were too small and had to dodge from time to time the high-pressure water gun spit out by the crocodile. Seeing Tang Yu, the leading military mage said exhaustedly, "You guys are coming, quickly block the dam, and don't be knocked open by them. Otherwise it will be broken into pieces along the river and enter the sewers in the city, or the creeks in the villages and towns. It's going to be difficult to deal with." Tang Yu frowned. Standing on the vibrating dam, she was a little unsteady. Seeing this scene on the lake, dozens of hunters gasped and said, "This must be at least 1,000 crocodile monsters." A mid-level soldier said, "They are very smart. Once we control the star map, they will sink into the water, and most of the magic will be invalid." Hearing this, Tang Yu turned her head and began to direct, "Who are you water mages? Gather together and be responsible for controlling the water waves. When the crocodiles dive down, use the violent waves to turn them up." Lu Jun did his part to stand up and obey the command, and then more than 20 people came out one after another. Most of them majored in or minored in the water system, otherwise they would not have taken the initiative to respond to the call to kill the flood monster. Looking down at the roaring crocodiles on the lake, he felt excited. Campus life was too lazy, so hunting monsters was really suitable for him. Rumble. The next moment, Lu Jun drew a star map, and the distinctive blue light reflected half of the sky, and a 30-foot wide river surged down from the dam like a waterfall. At the same time, more than 20 middle-level water systems showed their power, and 20 stormy waterfalls joined together to form a mighty tidal wave, which was as shocking as the tidal wave of the Qiantang River, with one wave higher than the other. The sky changed, and the water vapor gathered in the sky. The entire Songjiang ferry crossing resounded with roars, the lake water fluctuated, and the majestic energy threw millions of tons of water. Spirit Seed. The military mage led the team and looked at Lu Jun in surprise. His storm was the most conspicuous among the crowd, and even the combined efforts of the group could hardly conceal his contribution. Seeing the magic attack of humans, the group of cruel and cunning predators tried to repeat their tricks and hid in the lake again. However, this time it was different. They were shocked to find that the water flow that used to move like fingers was out of control. Not only that, but also turned into an accomplice to the killing, sending them flying high. This is the treatment of the powerful. Many of the smallest ones were simply drawn into the bottom of the lake in the torrent, and their internal organs were shattered by the huge impact of the storm, and they completely sank to the bottom of the lake. Crash. Water magicians have a unique advantage in water battles. If one part is the force driving magic, the inertia acting on the water flow is 10 parts. The more people there are, the stronger the momentum will be. The lake was boiling, and the waves as high as 10 meters lifted a huge crocodile monster, almost parallel to the dam, and its belly turned over, without the ability to resist. Tangyu shouted loudly. Wind type, ice type, and thunder type mages release magic. Immediately, the remaining 20 or so mages took control of the star map, and tornadoes rose one after another, rolling up massive amounts of water, like a dragon sucking water and boiling it up against the sky. Crocodile, hit the dam hard. And the dam has long been repaired by the mages of the rock department. The elder sister Lu Mei just arrived at the scene without saying a word. She has not hunted monsters for a while. Up. Buzz. The soil system is middle-level mountain rock barrier mountain, and the middle-level 3-level cap is also 2.5 times the rock species. The surface of the gray-white dam quickly spreads a layer of apricot yellow brilliance, which is crystal clear and firm, with a certain heavy meaning. A giant crocodile was pushed to a height of more than 20 meters by the tornado and the tide, and was baptized by the thunder and frost. When it landed on the dam, the gravity increased 3 times, and it was completely smashed into a puddle of meat and died thoroughly. Tangyu didn't make a move. The fire element is not good at water battles, and would disturb her companions instead. She was surprised to see this scene. It has been half a year since she fought in Bochung, and she hasn't joined hands with Lu Mei to kill the enemy for a long time. Lu Mei noticed the gaze, pointed at Lu Jun and said with a smile, "My brother helped me find it." That rose flame was exchanged for. Tangyu understood, and at the same time recalled the incident at the hotel. Her charming face flushed, her heart felt a little sour, and she glared at Lu Jun. Seeing this, Lu Jun was at a loss. He didn't touch the water, he was controlling the star map. Why so many people stared at him? No matter what, with the arrival of the elite monster hunters, this wave of killings finally had an obvious effect. More than 300 crocodile monsters died, and 200 of them were strangled to death by tens of millions of tons of lake water. The killing effect of the water system is even better. Lu Jun put other thoughts behind him, and stared at the lake in front of him with fiery eyes. More than 200 remnants rose up, and the starry blue spirit merged into the white tiger pendant on his chest. The little white tiger trembled metallically, jumping for joy, devouring its soul after a long absence. Lu Jun was delighted. These 200 remnants were considered the limit of the little white tiger's range, otherwise all the more than 300 remnants would be in his pocket. Of course, most of them are slaves, and there are only 2 or 3 warriors. Combined with the remnants of the generals hunted and killed in the last battle of Bo City stored in the White Tiger Pendant Blood Lake, there are only 7 or 8 remnants, and it is too far away from hundreds of integrated generals. But it doesn't matter. Lu Jun's servant-level spirit can be synthesized into 2. Buzz buzz. In the blood lake inside the White Tiger Pendant, more than 200 faint candles merged and overlapped each other, and 2 clusters of faint green torches ignited, causing considerable energy fluctuations. A total of 2 complete synthetic servant-level spirits. With the middle level of the whole series, once this primitive accumulation takes shape, the snowball starts to roll, and it is only 5 pieces away from adding a level 4 magic of the elementary level of a series. This is still not lucky. A complete servant spirit, none of them exploded. Don't you see the future? After Mo Fan's entire series of middle-level magic, he completed the feat of both the elementary and middle-level magic of both thunder and fire systems, reaching the 4th level in just 1 year. Lu Jun's heart is hot, and there is a lack of spirit in each of the 4 departments. As long as all the elementary level magic is at the 4th level, each elementary level magic is equivalent to half an intermediate level magic, and the combat power will increase a lot. It will be much easier. If it is the 4th level of the intermediate level, he dared to single-handedly brush all the old students in the main campus of the Pearl. There are not many opportunities to safely spawn monsters like this. It's not just Lu Jun who thinks this way, but also other elite monster hunters. The last time they were present were senior demon hunters, with 2 middle-level staff, the most elite urban management brigade in the city. Ho ho ho. The crocodile group suffered a huge loss, and realized that staying in the water was nothing but being slaughtered. Each roared, escaped from the lake, and climbed on the steep dam wall, extremely fast and vigorous. The continuous high walls seemed to be densely covered with black scale beasts, which are more terrifying than the zombies in the train to Busan. After all, each of them is a big monster that is close to 10 meters, and the murderous and bloody breath blows towards the face. The crocodile monsters are not lame like the sea monsters. They are real amphibians of the sea and land. They had an advantage when they stayed on the water before, so that the military mages couldn't hurt them. It's different now. The lake is full of murderous intent, but it's not safe. It's better to go ashore and fight in close quarters. The leading crocodile at the advanced level showed its ferocious mouth. It was more than 20 meters long, almost like a dragon, with thick black scales all over its body and horns on its head. Based on its experience, the fragile bodies of those human mages can be easily crushed in close combat. In just a few seconds, the first few crocodiles approached the shore, and the speed was too fast. Compared with the ordinary crocodiles of Blue Star, it should be noted that this dam was specially raised. Tang Yu shouted, "Attention everyone, the crocodile group has come ashore, but don't be afraid." Compared with other monsters such as the Shanren wolf tribe, the speed is still slow. The disadvantage is that the dragon has no regrets, and it is difficult to turn around. Just fight around. There are all old hunters with rich experience. Everyone first bless themselves or their teammates with a wind track, and then fight to stop it. My sister Lu Mei gave the wind control system wind track, and the spiritual species yellow wind blessing. At this moment, Lu Jun only felt the whirlwind of white fluff all over his body, like goose feathers in heavy snow, his hair flying, and his windbreaker fluttering. It was different. Anyone who comes close will be scratched by the wind blade. Once the defense is broken, the bleeding will continue, and the wound will not heal. The elementary magic fire will be extinguished instantly. Rumble. Immediately, flames, thunder, and wind and tornado flew together, bombarding wildly. Lu Jun was not idle. He controlled the star map, took a deep breath, and was eager to challenge the limit of tide. The previous storm wave and expulsion hit a bunch of crocodile monsters, and 20% of the magic energy had been extracted. Immediately afterwards, he threw out another punch, and the second wave of tide storm expulsion was thrown out. Although it was an intermediate level magic, it could be double enhanced by spirit seeds and special effects, almost reaching the strength of an ordinary third level magic. A slightly dim blue waterfall, apparently a few laps larger, fell down with a majestic impact. A dozen slave-level steel plate predators climbing on the road were coerced and fell hard on the water. Crash! An obvious blue waterway appeared in the already turbulent lake. The powerful impact of the tide pushed all the way, rolled rapidly, and crossed the big lake in the blink of an eye. From the dam to the other side of the vast lake, the crocodile demon were all involved. What's more, Yu Shi not only slammed into the land on the other side, but the moment it hit the azure blue that was more than 10 meters high, it flew up high, like a water dragon savagely planted into the forest, plowing out a deep ravine, filled with mud and sand, and it was rendered faintly yellow. Seeing this, Lu Jun sensed more than 30 servant-level remnants floating in, and finally produced a servant-level spirit. At this time, those warrior-level crocodile demons finally discovered his existence, and 2 or 3 roaring creatures with a length of more than 10 meters climbed over. In fact, some crocodiles have already boarded the dam nearby and fought with a few hunters. After all, there are only 70 or 80 people, and the dam is so long, it is inevitable that there will be a shortage of manpower to fill all the vacancies. But Lu Jun was not afraid at all. While moving and dodging on the wind track, he controlled the star. A dark blue star map was depicted in front of him, and the surrounding majestic water vapor swirled, mixed with the whirlwind of the wind track, and a tornado rose all over the sky. The third re-intensified dark blue river rushed down, swelling nearly 50 meters, mighty, and mercilessly knocked 2 or 3 ordinary warriors down the dam. Boom, boom, boom. The huge body of the crocodile demon was engulfed by the current, and the dull sound of impact appeared one after another, as if being hit by a huge force of 10,000 tons. As before, it was pushed to the opposite bank forcefully, and continued to push flatly along the plow marks, destroying part of it. Trees. When the tide dissipated, in that deep pit, the three-headed warrior fell powerlessly, his bones and muscles were broken, his internal organs were a mass of mud, he was dying, and his life was not long. Lu Jun was very fast, with one black and one white eyes, controlled by the spiritual realm. The fourth wave of expulsion was fired, and the power was strengthened again. The huge energy gathered in his body made the whole lake glow with a dark blue luster, as if echoing. The hunter elites around were forced to retreat again and again, terrified. After the third one, everyone is a field that has never been tried before. Rumble. All the crocodile monsters sensed the huge energy and wanted to retreat one after another, but Lu Jun's mind controlled it precisely and rushed towards the place where the monster group was densest. The high tide and torrent shattered large pieces of black scales, and the lake was filled with bright red blood. The smell of blood was so strong that it washed into the ravine on the opposite bank, and a channel running through the lake was created by magic. Tide storm expulsion. Lu Jun once again cast the fifth water magic. After 5 times of strengthening, he faintly touched the minimum standard of high level. The dark blue glow filled the dam, and the lake was aroused. Crash. The silver bottle burst into water and the crocodile at the advanced stage couldn't help it. With a low growl, it rushed out from the deepest part of the lake. Its slender and strong black-scaled body circled up like a dragon, pounced on the dam, and descended from the sky, trying to block Lu Jun's magic, and the shadow it cast covered the sky and the sun. But Mr. Lu below didn't panic. A huge ray of light shot up into the sky, straight to the belly of the leader of the crocodile in the sky, and this huge crocodile was forced to be thrown tens of meters high, and then smashed heavily into the lake. The originally fairly vast lake was like a deep-fried basin. The central lake was sunken, exposing the riverbed, and laps of overlapping waves spread to the surrounding shores. This time, at least a dozen innocent crocodile monsters were crushed to death, and the advanced warrior was also seriously injured. Everyone was dumbfounded when they saw this. Is this kind of destruction still the defense and control water system in the impression? It's more terrifying than thunder and fire. Tang Yu, Lu Mei, including those monster-hunting mages and military mages looked at each other in blank dismay. The older sister on the side was very surprised. She thought she knew her brother well, but she still gave surprises every time she fought. Also, the freshman battles couldn't bring out the strength of Lu Jun's water system at all. However, Jun Lu was not finished yet. He took a deep breath. The blue nebula in the spiritual world was dim, and there was still a little mana left, enough to unleash the sixth storm. Crash. Lu Jun was suspended in the air, his eyes reflected black and white, his mind was highly concentrated, his aura was like a demon, the turbulent lake in front of him was shaking, countless strands of water mist were rising, the starlight was pulling away, and the dark blue rays of light gathered in the sky. Body. A huge area is looming, and the magic power of the water element surges in this area, overwhelming other elements in an instant, occupying the dominance, and forming a strong rejection. Tang Yu clearly felt that her fire nebula was silent, and felt a sense of oppression, and so did everyone else, somewhat suppressed. The leading military mage couldn't believe it. This is the domain. How can it be possible for a mere middle-level mage? The high-level symbolic ability is the elemental field, and those who master it have the same meaning as the 4 realms of spiritual power in the dimension system, stepping into the upper ranks. It is almost impossible to reach the middle level, unless disaster victims like Qin Yuer, Mu Ningxie, and Ding Yumian have the domain in the middle level. Tang Yu on the side frowned, and judged, it's not a domain, at most it's a fake domain. At this moment, Lu Jun has no energy to pay attention to other people, his thoughts are highly concentrated, and it is difficult to control his mental strength at the peak of the second realm. In fact, this kind of big movement is purely an illusion created by the overflow of energy that cannot be controlled, and it has achieved an alternative domain effect. Ordinary water-type mages get tidal spirit seeds. I'm afraid there is no way to do this. The 6th superposition is too difficult. Otherwise, selling this spirit seed at the beginning would not have soared tens of millions. Rumble. With his last punch, the water nebula was instantly drained, and his whole body was filled with rays of light. When it fell, it was like a curtain of water, covering the sky and the sun, and it looked like the Milky Way swooping down. The small half of the lake was covered in an instant, and most of the impact was borne by the most advanced fighters in the middle. Tens of millions of tons of water fell, splashing the entire lake, and a large wave of waves rebounded onto the dam. There was mud and sand, and the turbid lake water fluctuated. The huge crocodile leader in the center, his slender body was broken from the middle, his spine was completely smashed in half by the waterfall, blood overflowed from his body, and his internal organs were twisted. At the same time, a warrior-level remnant soul rose slowly, and together with the dead remnants of more than 200 slave-level crocodile monsters that were affected, gathered in the white tiger pendant. Seeing this, Lu Jun was a little disappointed. He couldn't even produce a warrior-level spirit in the advanced stage, otherwise it would be more than enough to sell 20 million. But it didn't take long before he was overjoyed. With the white tiger pendant, he had already collected 5 synthesized servant-level essence plus 2 complete slave-level essences, which made up enough 7 pieces. There are more than 10 warrior-level remnants. In other words, as long as Lu Jun thinks about it now, he can immediately point out the water system's elementary level 4 skills. He thought about it, the 2 slave-level spirits were to be kept and sold for money, and the rest of the composites were drawn by his spiritual thoughts to the dark blue nebula in the dark universe. Boo, boo, boo. Like the sound of eggs hatching, the water nebula was nourished by the essence, and the stars swelled in a big circle, and a total of 5 stars sublimated, and a burst of warm magic energy burst out, making the nebula a little brighter. There are still 2, but Mr. Lu is not in a hurry. Anyway, this flood season will last for a while, and there are many opportunities to kill monsters. Sooner or later, we will be able to make up all of them. This time Lu Jun was very emotional. He didn't expect the water system to be used to the extreme, and he faintly touched the threshold of the domain. To some extent, it was the strongest method in his hands. The gold system is a little lacking, of course, it needs to be charged, but the middle level of the gold system does not need it. 7 swords are transformed into 7 swords in one breath, and the handle is like a mountain of heaven. When it falls, it will destroy the sky and destroy the earth. When the middle rank is capped, even some weak high ranks can fight. It is not an exaggeration for Mofan to fight a super rank with a high rank. But the nearby demon hunters and soldiers gasped. They were at the advanced level of warriors. Generally, there were no high-level mages, or several mid-level top-level masters couldn't deal with them. Right now, he was washed away by Lu Jun's 2 violent waves and died. Look, someone suddenly shouted, pointing to the muddy lake that had been disturbed by the battle. Those crocodile monsters have retreated. I saw densely packed corpses of giant crocodiles up and down on the lake, glistening with black light, and huge black shadows swimming in the bottom of the water, quietly fading along the gaps, occasionally bumping into the corpses of their companions. The remaining 300 or so crocodile retreated, followed the river, and returned to the main stream of the Wangpu River. More than 700 corpses remained in place, which can be called a rout. The soldiers and officers were a little dreamy, and they just fished and paddled casually, and didn't make much of it. They actually won and defended the Songjiang Estuary Dam. Lu Jun contributed the most during the whole process. And the demon-hunting mages didn't care at all. Seeing the crocodile corpses everywhere in the lake, their eyes were fiery. They took the risk of hunting monsters for what, isn't it just money? Tang Yu was stunned for a while, then turned to the group of mages. This time, Lu Jun contributed the most, and he can get half of the corpses. In addition, the advanced warrior-level corpses belong to him. Hearing this, the others nodded and didn't take it seriously. They can earn money with pure blood without even dying. The hunters began to go down to the lake to salvage the corpses of the crocodile monster and divide the materials. The crocodile skin on the crocodile monster's body is very tough. Even if it is not made into a magic tool, it has a strong defense force just by chopping it on the body. The 20-meter-long giant crocodile was caught. Lu Jun saw it, and said to his sister with a smile, "The crocodile skin is flexible and can be made into a magic armor." Unexpectedly, Lu Mei didn't like it. She shook her head and said, "I'm almost at a high level, and the production is at most a mid-level magic armor, and it will cost a lot of money, forget it." However, with a full smile, she stretched out her white fingertips and tapped her younger brother's forehead, and said, "You brat is thoughtful." Lu Jun's heart throbbed, thinking of his sister's knee pillow 3 months ago. After finishing the materials, everyone at the scene seemed to have nothing to do for a while. During the period, a large truck drove in. It was an ordinary soldier who pulled the materials away. Just as Tang Yu was about to say something, her complexion changed slightly. She turned on the communicator and listened. After turning it off, she said uglily, "Things are not good. The Wangpu crocodile is no longer going this way, and it is attacking another dam with all its strength. At present, the defense has been broken through, and it has entered the outskirts of the city along the stream and river. It needs to send people to support it." A few people looked at each other in blank dismay. The monster is not mentally retarded, it is difficult to break through here, so go find the weak point. Someone asked. Then what should we do? Continue to suppress according to the order, or help? If we go to reinforce, this place will be empty again. What should we do if we are attacked? Hearing this, Tang Yu also hesitated. Lu Jun suddenly said, "Why don't you just leave 3 or 4 people behind? I, you, and my sister are enough. Even 1,000 crocodile monsters are enough to suppress, there is no need to waste manpower." After the words fell, everyone's eyes lit up, and they nodded. They were actually a little bit overwhelmed in the battle just now, and Lu Jun alone was enough. They saw the fighting power just now and were trustworthy. The leader of the military mage took a deep look at Lu Jun, a college student, and said bluntly, "Okay, let's arrange it like this, keep in touch at all times, and ask for help if you can't support it." After a while, the officers led the team, and more than 60 mid-level mages left. Lu Jun nodded when he saw the people leaving. The flood monster invasion accompanied by the flood is the most troublesome thing. It is 100 times more difficult than the monsters on land. The underground water system extends in all directions, with gaps and loopholes everywhere. Those monster hunting teams, the trial council, and the guards are fighting fires everywhere, and the crocodile monsters have the initiative. This is probably another reason why the super-level demon city does not take action. Sometimes the combat power is not the most important factor. Once the crocodile tribe hides in the deep river, no matter how many people there are, they are powerless. In addition, Lu Jun also considered the performance. There are other people here who will not be able to go all out after all. Although the gold system and the mind system are hidden, they become more obvious when using middle-level magic, so it is better to be careful. Only Lu Mei and Tang Yu are trustworthy. The former knows everything, while the latter has a lot of knowledge, so he can imagine some super magic tools. The 3 stayed where they were, looked at each other with a smile, and sat cross-legged to recover their magic energy. News came from all directions that the situation was not good, the flood was rising, and it was necessary to send a large number of earth mages, even tens of thousands of people, to block it and cast a temporary dam. Lu Jun was immersed in the spiritual world, and the blue nebula of the water system had almost recovered to half the level. Suddenly, his mind fluctuated and he noticed something strange. He, come back as soon as people leave, the monster is really cunning. He sneered and didn't make a move. With his mind, he saw a shallow black shadow hovering under the water under the ferry, as if he was collecting information, and he was a spy of the crocodile demon tribe. Therefore, if Lu Jun doesn't do anything, just a few crocodile monsters, killing the grass and scaring the snakes, it is better to set up a net, tie up the pockets, and wait for the prey to step into the trap. So he sent voice transmission through his mind, and quietly told the 2 mature and stable elder sisters beside him, "There is a crocodile monster coming, please keep quiet." The 2 women are ice snow smart people, they still maintain meditation on the surface, and slowly control the star map in secret, ready to be ready at any time. And Lu Jun began to arrange. The dark green curse nebula released magic energy, and on the lake, the dam weaved a large invisible net, only the soul can peep. Gulu gulu. I don't know how long it took, but bursts of air bubbles appeared at the ferry, and before you knew it, the surface of the lake became a bit deeper, and the crocodile group summoned another 700 or 800 crocodile monsters, but there were no advanced warriors. When Lu Jun saw this number, he was secretly startled. The Wangpu crocodile group is not simple. Maybe there is an advanced leader with tens of thousands of people under his command. Crash. The 3 people on the dam were as motionless as a mountain. Suddenly the lake surged violently, setting off a 30-meter high wave, rushing towards the dam, and the flood almost submerged the shore. Lu Jun opened his eyes and was surprised to see this scene. The crocodile monster first focuses on physical fitness and melee combat. It is a rare amphibious monster on land and sea, but when will it have this ability to control water? If it had been before, why should they be hanged up and beaten by a few of their water mages? There is no room for resistance. At this moment, Lu Jun didn't have time to think about it, and quickly controlled Xingzi, almost to the point of one thought of Xingzi, and blessed himself, as well as his sister, Tangyu, 3 times in a row with 3 levels of water control and circulation. Buzzing, the air and water vapor are adjusted, and they are quickly intertwined into several shining ribbons of blue water flowing around the bodies of the 3 of them. As for Lu Mei and Tang Yu, they also reacted quickly, casting out the mid-level magic they were holding. Monster Wind Disc Tier. Sparrow Flame Fierce Fist 9 Palaces. The 2 women's aura soared, and their temperament was flamboyant. First, a plain white tornado more than 20 meters high rushed into the sky, and the huge wind blade that spun and cut quickly split the towering tide in half, splashing water and raining heavily. Then Tang Yu shot out 9 flaming dragons with fangs and claws, and they collided on the tidal lake. The scorching sea of fire continued, the sound of squeaks resounded, the water vapor evaporated, and a large white mist filled the air, causing the temperature of this area to rise sharply, from wet to dry. However, before the 3 of them could relax, they saw a line of white outcropping on the river channel entering the lake mouth in the distance. From far to near, there was another 30-meter tide, and the speed was extremely fast. The next moment, the shocking huge waves were photographed, and tens of millions of tons of water swept across, knocking Lu Jun and others into the air. Not only that, the waves seemed to be alive, and they were collected into the lake. The current engulfed the 3 of them and forced them to roll back into the sea, and they were powerless to resist in this process. As long as anyone who has played in the sea knows that the ocean tide reaching the ankle height can make a person unsteady on the shore. Once it reaches the waist, it must be life-threatening. It is best to keep breathing and keep your strength to save yourself. If the tide is higher than human beings, then there is no hope, just wait for death. The current 10-foot-high flood did not kill 3 people on the spot, which is considered to be the power of tides, water control, and circulation. Of course, the moment Lu Jun fell into the water, the circulation in his body finally couldn't withstand the impact, and it completely collapsed, scattered into thousands of blue water droplets. A large amount of water poured into his mouth, nose and eyes. His eyes were dry, and he subconsciously closed his eyes. Sore, suffocating. In addition, the water in the lake kept tumbling, causing him to sway and lose his sense of direction. Even through his telepathy, huge crocodile shadows were approaching around the bottom of the lake. A stone sank in Lu Jun's heart, and it was difficult to deal with it. Human mages were fighting monsters at the bottom of the lake, so they must not be beaten violently. If he is high level, then whether it is the control of the elements in the water system to diffuse the tide, or the high-level magic water bloom canopy can easily save his sister and the others, at most he can save himself. There is no way. Lu Jun's water system's elementary magic water defense, although it is level 3, is good for resisting small winds and waves, and sheltering from heavy rains. If you want to breathe underwater, the freedom to move underwater that monsters make waves is still far behind. This action was obviously not caused by a group of crocodiles, but with the help of a professional water control monster, and the pre-intermediate water mages were a little weak. Can't wait any longer. He endured the pain of getting water in his mouth and nose, and made a sudden decision to guide the 2 complete spirits in the White Tiger Pendant into the water system of the Azure Nebula, and maybe keep them and sell them for 10 million yuan, but the price of life is even higher. Puff, puff. There were 2 crisp sounds in a row, and the 7 planetesimals in the blue nebula revolved around the vortex, and a powerful and gentle magic energy gushed out. Lu Jun clearly felt that his affinity for the water element was rising steadily. His body seemed to be infiltrated with fairy dew, turning into water flow. The next time he casts the storm wave superimposed 6 times, he will be better able to control it. Immediately, through telepathy, he quickly locked on the figures of his elder sister Lu Mei and Tang Yu, controlled the star trail with his thoughts, and released the 4th-level water Yu Xuanjiao. The instinct conveyed by the water nebula, it seems that the 4th-level magic of the water system is more effective on itself. Buzz. Lu Jun's body glowed with a blue glow, and majestic water vapor gushed out from his body. On the fair skin, crystal and fine phantom scales spread, condensing the inner armor, looking hard and immortal, and the light shone and reflected flashes. The outside is covered with a water windbreaker, which is interwoven with several thick currents, like a huge green snake wrapped around the body, entrenched in the front and back, protecting everything. Lu Jun felt strange, the phantom scales like dragon skin extended all the way to his cheeks, and suddenly he awakened a certain long-hidden talent in the human body, which is called fetal breath, also known as underwater breathing. Human babies look forward to being in the mother's placenta, wrapped in amniotic fluid without suffocation, and able to spontaneously master super high swimming skills at birth. These instinctive things disappear as they grow up. Now with the help of the 4th level Shui Yu Xuanjiao, they have all been recovered. In addition, Lu Jun also felt that the surging waves around the bottom of the lake were not so unstoppable. He seemed like a fish in water. He could clearly distinguish the purpose of each wave. He could follow the changes of the water flow and control his body freely. Gravity disappeared from then on. Be flexible. In an instant, his body, which had been tumbling in the boiling water, straightened up, and he stood calmly at the bottom of the lake, seemingly motionless, but in fact, the green snake water flow on his coat was changing all the time, and the phantom scales on his body were also shaking all the time. Mouth and nose pain, dry eyes and other conditions have completely disappeared, breathing becomes smoother, and the air absorbed in the water is fresh. Lu Jun didn't have time to comprehend it carefully, so he immediately controlled Xingzi, and 2 streams of water gushed out from his hands respectively, passing through the turbid tides, and reaching his sister Lu Mei and Tang Yu respectively. The 2 turquoise water streams faintly looked like giant pythons, and when they touched any part of the 2 women, they quickly rippled away, just like the Iron Man possessed, with crystal dragon scales spreading inch by inch from the waist, abdomen or back, covering the whole body. The giant pythons actively embraced each other, forming a special water shield, covering the outermost layer. The next moment, both Lu Mei and Lu Mei seemed to be self-taught, and quickly straightened their bodies. The buoyancy made their dresses float up, a pair of plump and slender long legs were exposed, and the green snake's slender tail flowed close to them. Immediately afterwards, it swayed like a mermaid, swished away at an extremely fast speed, and calmly avoided the attacking crocodile. Seeing this, Lu Jun heaved a sigh of relief. His 2 sisters were safe, and he had no scruples anymore. An 8 or 9 meter long slave-level crocodile rushed forward, with majestic power. He wanted to experiment with the power of the 4th level water defense, but did not release magic resistance. Boom! Sure enough, the giant crocodile bit his arm, and was shocked by the turbulent water flow of the green snake. Not to mention the human skin, it didn't even pass the defense of the outer layer of water. That's right, I spent 10 million to strengthen it. Lu Jun is delighted. Originally, the 3rd level water defense planted by the tidal spirit can withstand a blow from the servant level at the advanced stage, but now it can withstand even a few blows from the general level. With the addition of the magic tool Xuanming Turtle Armor Shield, it is foolproof. Buzz! 7 or 8 giant crocodiles surged fiercely around them, setting off white sprays. Seeing this, Lu Jun snorted coldly, stretched out his hand, and a shocking golden épée appeared. The 4th level caster concussion was activated, and with a single strike, a white golden glow of more than 10 feet shot into the sky. Layer upon layer. Crash! With one strike of the sword, the powerful concussion forced the lake water on both sides to be separated, creating a vacuum gully. The lake surface was split in 2, and the sunlight came in. Of course, it was accompanied by a series of muffled sounds of cutting flesh. Thick blood filled the lake, and 7 or 8 servant-level crocodiles were torn apart by a slight touch, and even cut in half on the spot. Lu Jun shook off the nearby crocodiles, swung his legs, nimbly got out of the gap, surfaced, looked into the distance, and immediately captured the center of the crocodile crowd with his thoughts. There are a few people standing upright. The short fish demon, the whole body is white and smooth, covered with fine white scales, the limbs are webbed like fish fins, the head is rather strange, and the mouth is pointed, like a long sword piercing the sky. Yangtze River White Sturgeon Demon. Seeing this scene, Lu Jun immediately recalled all kinds of monster information collected by his sister in his mind, and recognized this monster. His face was slightly cold. It turned out that the water waves just now were caused by the white sturgeon. This monster is weak and not much stronger than a human mage. Only the power to control water with one hand is really strong, and it is often accompanied by many monarchs in the Yangtze River. Play the role of a military advisor. Whenever there is a flood season, the white sturgeon is the first to brew the tide. No wonder hundreds of crocodile monsters dared to provoke me. So they brought a military division. The Wangpu crocodile tribe was really provoked. Originally, Lu Jun wanted to use the middle-level storm waves of the water system, but when he saw the white sturgeon, he gave up. With several warrior-level white sturgeons united, the burst of water control power was enough to wipe out the storm. On the other side, Lu Mei and Tang Yu dispersed, and they had activated their intermediate magic to resist the surging crocodile group. They still couldn't use it in the water, and their earth and fire magic were suppressed. In the distance, the white sturgeons showed ferocious smiles, and their wisdom was obviously much higher than that of the crocodile demons. Hee, do you think I can't beat you like this? Facing a dangerous situation, Lu Jun didn't panic at all, and with a thought, he controlled the cursed seal evil spider's trap web weaving just arranged. Buzz buzz. Suddenly, clusters of dark green evil claws descended silently on the turbulent and boiling lake, like large green nets stretched out to salvage the lake. Ho ho ho, the dense black light flickered, a part of the crocodile froze, engulfed in an inexplicable curse net, and complex dark green curse marks emerged on the crocodile's back. The few warrior-level white sturgeons in the center were shocked to find that they had been covered by an inextricable green network at some point. Their souls were in severe pain, their bodies were eroded by, and a curse mark also appeared on their foreheads. They can no longer use their ability to control water and create waves. This is not over yet. Facing the attack of several loyal warrior-level giant crocodiles who were busy protecting the Lord, Lu Jun sneered. His eyes were black and white, and there was a transparent star map behind him. It is the first time to use the mid-level magic of the mind system. Second realm mind ripple mind control. Buzz buzz. Lu Jun's eyes gushed out powerful spiritual thoughts, and descended on several warrior-level crocodiles from the air, breaking the hard lake barrier, causing them to fall into chaos, and mistaking him for a white sturgeon. Coming to the side with a murderous look, they turned around immediately, and 3 or 4 huge crocodiles more than 10 meters long protected the surroundings, biting each of the slave-level giant crocodiles. Puff! The warrior crocodile floated up on the lake, and slapped it heavily with its huge claws. Suddenly, a giant crocodile's head exploded, like a watermelon exploding, blood spattered, opened its blood basin and bit it, and a giant crocodile broke in 2 from the spine. For a moment, all the slave-level crocodile monsters stopped attacking. They were all at a loss. Let the crocodiles become chaotic, and the dragons have no leader. Lu Jun's one-handed mind system and the other hand's curse system, showing power at the same time, actually restrained more than half of the crocodile group's combat power, which is not powerful. Ordinary soul and curse mages are not that powerful, they are purely in the spiritual realm, and can control several warlords at once. Of course, Lu Jun had undergone Ding Yumian's special training to easily break through the heart of the warrior crocodile monster, and then use his body's water system breath to confuse his eyes with fishy eyes, and it lasted for a while at most. Crash! Under Lu Jun's control, 2 slave-level crocodiles came to Lu Mei and Tang Yu, and let them step on the back of the monster crocodile, carrying the 3 of them back to the shore quickly. Then, while there was still some time, his eyes reflected the transparent rays of light, and he whipped the hearts of several warrior-level crocodile monsters violently, making them go berserk. Roar, roar, roar. Several warlords roared with pain in their hearts, and swayed their huge bodies crazily, rampaging and fighting wantonly, smashing the flesh and blood of the servants. Dozens of other warrior crocodile monsters sensed something was wrong, so they growled and called on their younger brothers to resist, and rushed forward to kill these 3 or 4 warrior-level companions. Of course, a heavy price was paid for this. 2 or 3 war generals of the same rank were dragged into the water and were severely injured, dying, and dozens of slave ranks were bitten to death. After Lu Mei and Tang Yu were safe, they didn't stop. They each controlled the star map, and the storm and flames intertwined, forming 9 fire tornadoes and sweeping across the lake. The fiery sea of flames spread across the lake. Hundreds of crocodile monsters caught in the trap of evil spiders were reduced to charred black corpses, and a smell of burnt barbecue filled the air. Lu Jun let go of his mind control, and all the energy he drew was concentrated on the evil spider's trap. After a period of erosion, the backs of those trapped crocodiles were covered with dense green curse marks, which had already penetrated. Snapped. He snapped his fingers, and decisively detonated the curse seal with his thoughts. Boom boom boom. Quietly, the flesh and blood on the back of a crocodile demon exploded, and the blood spattered. At the same time, the soul was harvested, the forehead swelled, the mouth and nose were bleeding, and it seemed that it would not survive. Even if they were lucky enough not to die immediately, the flesh and blood on their backs turned dark green, bright in color, and filled with a strange aura of curse. Hey! At this moment, the white sturgeons finally broke free from the net of the curse. Seeing the death of their subordinates and the heavy losses, they couldn't help shouting angrily. Water mist filled their bodies, and they vented their majestic monster power. The lake was in turmoil and seemed about to stir again. Seeing this, Lu Jun sneered. He was caught off guard and attacked by surprise before, but now he dares to do it when he is discovered. The next moment, his eyes shone with a strange dark green light, and he stared at several white sturgeons hundreds of meters away, interrupting their spellcasting in an instant. The white sturgeon looked terrified, and was stared at by a pair of crimson eyes. What it didn't know was that the curse mark on its forehead deepened, and dark green lines spread all over its body. Death. Jun Lu detonated the curse seal with a firm will. Immediately after a series of familiar explosions sounded, the bodies of several war generals, the white sturgeon, were smashed to pieces on the spot, blood clots splashed, and blood rained down the sky, melting into the vast lake. Lu Jun looked indifferent. He didn't directly release the curse mark just now, but continued to deepen the mark. Make sure to kill the white sturgeon 100%. The superposition of curse seals can be strong or weak, and it is generally judged according to the area covered by the lines on the body. If the lines cover the whole body, then the warriors below the level of the general will undoubtedly die. In such a short while, more than 200 slave-level monsters were killed or injured, and about 10 warrior-level monsters died. The remaining 400 to 500 crocodiles felt retreating and wanted to return to the mainstream along the river mouth. However, how could the three of Lu Jun let go of these demons? He shouted, "Sister, tie them up." Lu Mei controlled the star map and displayed mountains, rock barriers, and mountains. The lake was turbulent, and the small place where the entrance to the lake was, the waves were rolling, and the rock walls were roaring and rising, stacked on top of each other, hard and heavy. Due to the narrow entrance and exit, only a few large crocodiles can be accommodated at the same time. The crocodiles are blocked at the entrance of the lake for a while, and they are in a dilemma. The aura of shadows on Tangyu's body surged, and a dark night star map emerged under her feet, and several shadows floated forward silently, turning into giant nails, piercing the shadows of the giant crocodile, and fixing several warrior-level crocodile. This is the limit of the shadow system. There is no way to force a single player to control it. It can only lock a very few extremely powerful generals. In addition, the sporadic traps of evil spiders laid by Junlu are also working, turning into large dark green nets to encircle a group of crocodile demons. When this wave went down, hundreds of crocodile monsters were directly surrounded into a pile, row upon row, densely layered. Buzz buzz. Lu Jun finally freed his hand, and after a long time, he took control of the middle-level gold magic, imperial artifact fragmentation, and the gold shocking épée rose from the ground, floating around him to form a 3-foot-long platinum sword light. The sword light soared into the sky, fleeting, leaping across the sky, and the sharp whistling sound resounded, almost blending with the cloudy sky. Then, Lu Jun waved his hands down, and in an instant a beam of white light descended from the sky, like a giant missile, and in midair, 7 heavenly swords were formed in one breath, each of which was 12 meters high. Boom boom boom. One after another, the épée fell from the hill, piercing through the most densely populated area of the crocodiles. There was a continuous and loud roar, accompanied by the sound of flesh and blood, and the lake seemed to be boiling and rolling. On the vast surface of the lake, 7 towering, sword hills, covered half of the lake, and a large amount of blood gushed out from the bottom, venting wantonly, completely dyeing the lake into a lake of blood. The smell of blood was overwhelming, and the water quality became viscous. This is not something that will go away in a while, and the current situation refers to the current situation. Lu Jun killed at least 200 or more crocodile monsters this time. Even at the level of a warrior, if he hit the core, he would surely die. The killing power of the gold system is vividly displayed, and the secondary differentiation has expanded the range of the group attack several times, and the same killing does not require the water nebula to accumulate and lay out the field many times, or even drain the mana. Afterwards, the 3 of Lu Jun quickly wiped out the broken crocodile herd, and the corpses drifted in the blood lake. Seeing this scene, Tangyu couldn't help feeling that the combat power was a bit exaggerated. Maybe after the mid-level was capped, she could fight against the high level. She vaguely guessed Lu Jun's secrets, such as the strange spiritual ability, which could be explained by the curse system alone. I don't know, but I didn't intend to ask in detail. The other party doesn't want to say it. The three killed hundreds of crocodiles, sat down to meditate, and seized the time to recover their mana. Lu Jun looked inside the white tiger pendant, and absorbed more than 400 slave-level remnants of spirits, and reassembled them into 4 slave-level spirits. In addition, there were 2 complete spirits. This round earned it back. Water defense has reached the 4th level, which is equivalent to half of the middle-level defensive magic, second only to the rock barrier. For the next level 4, Lu Jun thought about it, and decided to give the psychic system the first level. In the past 3 months, Ding Yumian's research on some ideas seems to have yielded results. His magic level can't keep up. Maybe the 4th level, Lingyi, will bring surprises. Whether it's the gold system, the water system, or the 4th level of the soul, there is no original book, it is a completely unfamiliar field, at least the 3 are very useful. The spiritual system is the most important thing. Even if the mental shock reaches a high level, it is very unsolvable, and it may become a means of challenging the level. At present, there are too few opportunities to hunt monsters in such a relatively safe way. Usually, it is necessary to go deep into the territory of monsters, and the danger is greatly increased. Lu Jun was immersed in the spiritual world, and merged all 4 spirits into a transparent nebula, causing the 4 translucent stars to swell in a circle. In a blink of an eye, the 3 of them guarded the Songjiangkou Dam for 3 days and 3 nights. Chapter 91. Near the Huangpu River in Shanghai, a burly middle-aged man with a bushy beard in a counselor's robe stood standing, looking at the 50-meter-high waves of the vast river in the distance. His face was serious, and he couldn't hide his exhaustion. He hadn't closed his eyes for 3 days and 3 nights standing here, directing the mobilization of all ferries, dams, rivers and other defenses. From time to time, there are urgent reports from subordinates, one bad news after another, and one difficulty after another urgently needs to be resolved. Member Zhu Meng, there is a shortage of manpower at Hengliaojing Ferry, and reinforcements are needed. The injured mage has been sent to the logistics, but there is a serious shortage of healing mages, and medicines such as blood potions are in short supply. There are too few rock mages in Shuliaojing, the dam is about to collapse, and water is overflowing one after another. The crocodile monster that fled to the outskirts of the magic city was raging, and hid in the sewer, asking for a professional mage to clean it up. Zhu Meng frowned. Even if he was agitated in his heart, he kept his mind down, commanded and arranged everything in an orderly manner, took care of everything in place, and came up with a solution out of nowhere. Make good use of the overall situation from limited resources. Under his outstanding leadership, the situation in this section of the Yangtze River Magic City is basically stable, and the next step is to make steady progress, eliminate the crocodile monsters, control floods, and consolidate the dam. A certain female officer at the side admired this scene. She was tall and tall, with short yellow hair shoulder length, and a rare hooked nose for a woman, with deep-set eyes. She looked handsome, full of heroism, and kind beauty. Nanju was sent by the Southern War Zone to intern next to Counselor Zhu Meng. The southern region often faced floods. This person is also a well-known doer in the country, so he naturally came to learn something. Not to mention, although Nanju is very tired these days, she has really been honed greatly, and the plant department has broken through to the 2nd level of the intermediate level. Woo! At this moment, there was an ethereal yo-yo sound, and the 2 of them were alarmed. They turned their heads and glanced down. They were in the pavilion on the top of the Navy's dock, like a large fortress, which was not only responsible for the maintenance of ships, but also intercepted the checkpoint. In the reservoir inside the dock, a white dolphin is spitting water and humming lowly. Its body is smooth and clean, and its round shape looks like a white ball, which is quite cute. Zhu Meng's face was full of displeasure. It's this kind of monster that aroused Lord Crocodile Dragon's covetousness, and let us humans guard it, which led to this off-season small flood season, which caused heavy losses. Isn't this a big mistake? Hearing this, the officers nearby looked at each other in blank dismay, and next to him was a middle-aged old mage dressed sloppily like a fisherman who buckled his toes and said with disdain, "Just don't regret it when you need it." He paused and said, nowadays the Yangtze River Demon Kingdom is in civil turmoil, and the White Sturgeon clan took the opportunity to cleanse the White River porpoise lineage, which is quite difficult to deal with. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Both are rare groups of monsters with the ability to control water, but the latter is more peaceful and close to humans. We took action to save the remaining species. On the one hand, we are considering containing the White Sturgeon in the future and using demons to control them. On the other hand, we can cultivate the second domestic beast-taming army, comparable to the Sky Eagle. As he said that, the middle-aged fisherman Mage said excitedly, "At that time, one will be in the sky and the other will be in the water, which will be enough to protect the security of the country. You know, the ocean occupies more than 70% of the world, and rivers account for more, and water is the foundation of any ethnic group's survival. I assert that future threats must originate from the ocean. And an ethnic group with the ability to control water is on our side, which will give great help to the fighters." Master Fisherman said decisively. "In short, it is worth saving. There are many people in the water-controlling demon clan, but there are few docile ones." Hearing this, Zhu Meng sneered, and continued to say, "What are you using demons to control demons? Demons are not trustworthy. Didn't you suffer less in the past? How many tribes of demons that humans worked so hard to support turned their heads and bit humans back, raising tigers as a threat? Quote, Washa has spent so much money and raised so many monsters for so many years, what happened in the end? If you ask me, as long as you are within the scope of human territory, all threatening and possibly threatening monsters will be killed. If those resources are invested in human mages, the strong ones cultivated will already make up for the losses." The middle-aged fisherman Mage was too lazy to speak and didn't want to argue. Nanju had good eyesight, so he quickly brought a cup of hot water to Zhu Meng and said, "Mr. Zhu, you haven't closed your eyes for a few days, drink some water and take a rest." After saying that, Zhu Meng sat down with his cup in his hand, heaved a long sigh of relief. He was able to stop for a while when the situation was initially settled, and at the end he caught a glimpse of the middle-aged fisherman still looking indifferent, his anger still lingering. If this person hadn't been his life-and-death acquaintance, and he was half useless to save him, he would have been beaten to death a long time ago. Zhu Meng pointed at the few white finless porpoise demons in the inner lake of the dock, and angrily said, "Protection, there is a point, just a few of them have become an endangered species, and when they multiply to thousands of them, how much resources will be invested? Let's not even mention that it will be transformed into something like the Skyhawk Troop and the 7-star beast-taming army. If you don't have 100% obedience, you won't be able to pass the level above. How long will it take to train? Are you sure you won't rebel?" In the command room on the top of the dock, the officers present were silent. "Forget it." Zhu Meng gradually calmed down, and said, "It's not entirely your fault. Even if it wasn't for accepting the white finless porpoise, that crocodile dragon monarch would have attacked. Let me do this, I can't hunt and kill Mr. Crocodile myself, what the?" After finishing speaking, Zhu Meng put down his cup, leaned back on the chair and closed his eyes to rest for a while. He finished the task and planned the system, and then most things can operate according to the regulations. Nanju and other officers knew that the congressmen were under a lot of pressure these days, so they left wisely and carefully so as not to disturb Zhu Meng. Before the fisherman Mage retreated, he hesitated and said in a low voice, "Thank you." Before I knew it, hours passed. Zhu Meng opened his eyes in a daze, saw Nanju beside him, woke up suddenly, straightened up, saw that the dock was safe, his tense body gradually relaxed, and said seriously, "How long have I been resting? How is the situation now?" Hearing this, Nanju said respectfully, "About 3 hours, you can rest for a while, Congressman, we can deal with the matter, and the current situation has obviously improved." "Forget it." Zhu Meng frowned, got up and put on his coat, and began to read the orders and information from all over the place. He was afraid that his mind was not clear enough before, that there were omissions, or that there were mistakes in decision-making. Looking at it now, Zhu Meng nodded, the general direction was correct, but there was a faint feeling that something was wrong. So he looked up all the information again, and the more he looked at it, the more he frowned. After a while, Nanju noticed that the atmosphere was not right, and asked with a learning attitude, "What's wrong with the counselor?" Hiss. Zhu Meng took a deep breath and said, "It's a big problem. Did you see any information coming from Songjong Ferry in the past 3 days and 3 nights? Songjong Dam, Nanju muttered. She is also a capable person. During this period of time, she had memorized all the ferry dams and all the tributaries of the Magic City. Now that she recalled it, she broke into a cold sweat and said in a trembling voice, "No. No, not a single message." A bad premonition rose in Nanju's heart. Since the flood season of the Yangtze River, rivers, creeks, ferry dams and rivers everywhere have spread bad news like snowflakes. Although Songjong has no bad news at all, it seems to be very worry-free for the command center, but in the case of frequent monster invasions during the flood season, manpower is tight everywhere and there are a lot of problems. Why are you okay? No news is worst news. Either the monster broke through early and controlled the news channel so that it would not be spread, or the mage in charge of that ferry was deceiving. In fact, the problem has rotted to a serious level and is still covered up. Ma Dan, something happened. Zhu Meng cursed rudely, called the officers outside, and asked, "What's the situation with the Songjong Dam now, and who is in charge?" The military mage was stunned for a moment, and quickly said, "Tang Yu from the tribunal led the team, plus some city hunters." Hearing this, Zhu Meng frowned. Tang Yu. He knew this person. He was a judge of the Hangzhou Judgment Society, and also the niece of the presiding judge Tang Zhang, and a member of the Hidden Family. Because Zhu Meng himself is also a member of the Judgment Council, and because of his political differences, he is fairly familiar with Tang Yu and the others. HMPH, it's not easy for a little girl to do things well. Zhu Meng cursed loudly, got up and strode out of the command room, came to the dock outside and shouted, "All the reserve team gather for me, take the Sky Eagle, and go to Songjong Ferry to support." With his order, everyone realized the urgency of the matter. Before the Skyhawk could take off, Zhu Meng and Nanju used magic wings and flew all the way to the direction of Songjong Dam. Buzz buzz. The army in the air was mighty, and before they reached their destination, they smelled a pungent bloody smell. Zhu Meng frowned, and those soldiers also sank to the bottom of their hearts, making the worst plans. Immediately after they arrived, they saw that the lake at the Duko Dam had been stained blood red, and the viscous water quality doubted whether it contained a single drop of water, and densely packed crocodile corpses were floating on it, and even piled up into mountains. A mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Seeing this scene, everyone only thought of this word in their minds. At the same time, Zhu Meng and other military mages also saw the 3 people on the dam, 2 female mages with outstanding appearance and graceful figures sitting cross-legged and meditating. There was only one male sorcerer with a clear appearance and a strong imposing manner standing and casting spells. His eyes were sharp and he looked at him with a strong and fierce aura. Everyone gasped. There was no need to doubt. They knew at the first sight of this person that all this was done by the other party, and the indifference of killing was not something ordinary mages could handle. As for the 2 female mages, although they have good temperament, they are obviously weaker than others. A military mage was shocked and muttered to himself, "Oh my god, guarding the ferry dam alone killed at least 1,000 monsters, right?" It turns out that Songjongko is not without news, but was intercepted by someone alone. No support is needed. Nanju's expression was inexplicable. She could tell that this man was young and his appearance was relatively young. He was probably the same age as herself. She was quite proud at first. She went to the frontline demon battlefield at 19 and sat in the command room to watch the battle. Rich. But compared with the other party, guarding the Songjong Ferry by one person and slaughtering thousands of demons is far behind. In the air, Zhu Meng heaved a sigh of relief when he saw this. Fortunately, the dam was fine and no major mistakes were made. At the same time, he looked at Mr. Liu with great interest. For 3 days and 3 nights, he did not let any monster pass the level, which was better than many professional monster hunting groups. The military formation is still ruthless. At the same time, Lu Jun took control of Xingzi, and suddenly sensed a strong threat from the sky, so he vigilantly looked at the sky, his face full of doubts. Hundreds of Skyhawk troops flew over fiercely, all over the sky. All of them were middle-level elites and above, and there were many high-level powerhouses among them. Super big shot. Tang Yu and Lu Mei at the side woke up and stood up one after another. Among them, Tang Yu recognized the visitor and was taken aback, with an unnatural expression on her face. "Mr. Zhu Meng, why did he come in person?" Hearing this, Lu Jun had some impressions, and quickly dug through his memory to understand the identity of the visitor. Zhu Menganai is a member of the Forbidden City Magic Association, a member of the Judgment Council, a super mage, a high position and authority, and will be active in various disasters in the future. The most eye-catching thing is his hidden danger strategy. The idea is to eliminate all threatening monsters in the human territory, and to fight against the outside world must first secure the inside. A year and a half later, Zhu Meng attempted to kill the hidden danger in Hangzhou, the totem Zan snake enshrined by Tang Yu's clan, which belonged to one of the four great sacred beasts, the lower Shuangwu. In the original book, Dongfang Ming, who was defeated by Lu Jun before, was once under Zhu Meng's order, as a trainee member of the trial meeting, to arrest Mo Fan and Tang Yu, because they secretly took the black snake away. Thinking of this, he looked thoughtfully at Tang Yu, who hadn't disclosed the relevant background to him, so Zhu Meng's plan hadn't been acted on yet. How should this person say, a good person in the absolute sense? Basically he has struggled in any disasters across the country, the confrontation is just a difference in position and philosophy, and finally came to his senses, and the Tang Yu clan reconciled. Just as Lu Jun was thinking, the sky eagle slowly descended from the sky. The leader, Zhu Meng, approached, followed by a heroic female officer and a silent and simple head of guard. Elder sister Lu Mei frowned, stood up and asked, "What's the matter?" "It's okay." Zhu Meng's voice was rough, staring at Lu Jun, and asked seriously, "Why don't you call Songjiangko as support?" Lu Jun was taken aback for a moment, then calmly and domineeringly said, "No need." "Ha ha ha. Good, good, good." After saying that, Zhu Menghao burst into laughter, patted Lu Jun on the shoulder, and said with admiration, "That's right, you are the one who is the most worry-free of the people I have commanded. The others either have problems or need support. Sending letters every day annoys me. Of course I have to say it if necessary. I hate those incompetent people who are trying to save face." He paused, looked at Lu Jun and said, "You are from Pearl University, I will give you credit for the end, and I will recommend it to you for the battle of the national government in more than 2 years." Wu Pingjing, the head of the bodyguard, looked surprised. It was the first time he saw Mr. Zhu Meng appreciate someone so much. He couldn't help but envy Lu Jun. After being recognized by the counselor, he would be able to walk a lot after leaving the society. And Lu Jun and the three looked at each other, not knowing what was going on, so they raised doubts. Zhu Meng shook his head and said, "Grandma, there was no news from you before, which frightened our headquarters, thinking that Songjiang's mistake would affect the lives of hundreds of thousands of people, so I hurried over here. I didn't expect you to give me a surprise." Afterwards, Zhu Meng glanced at the dam that had become a lake of blood and praised, "You three should have exhausted your mana. I will send someone to take turns. You should take a rest." "No one expected," Lu Jun still said calmly, "No need." At the Songjiang Dam, not only Zhu Meng, but even the officers and guards nearby were taken aback. "Okay." Zhu Meng came back to his senses, nodded and nodded, trusting for a while. He likes this kind of confident man, so he said simply and neatly, "I will send you a few more people to assist you, and I will follow your orders throughout the whole process. Watch for 10 days and 10 nights. Lu Jun hesitated to speak, although he really wanted to say that he didn't need it, and he could exert his greatest strength by himself, but he rejected the council members twice in a row, so think about it and give him some face. Besides, in the previous battle, the nebula mana of the gold system was almost consumed, and the rotation of the water system, soul, and curse was also fine. Soon, Zhu Meng randomly ordered someone to stay and said, "Nanju is all you have to do. Don't just sit in the office. That will be full of problems. You have to go to the front line to solve practical difficulties. I have learned a lot by my side, there is nothing left to learn, just figure it out." Lu Jun looked over, and it turned out to be the heroic female officer. He noticed her from the very beginning. She has a hooked nose, good features, shoulder-length short hair, a loose military uniform and trousers, and a graceful figure. The legs are well proportioned and round, straighter than wearing high heels. "Wait a while, I'll send 2 or 3 people to help." Zhu Meng gave up and said to Lu Jun, "I'm busy with the task, so I'll go back first, leave a communication method, and contact me if you have any questions." After all, he simply took a group of people away quickly on the Skyhawk. Seeing this scene, Liu Jun rubbed his chin, and got acquainted with a big member of parliament, and gained a lot of money. Guarding the dam by himself can also attract the attention of super-level mages. It is true and unexpected, and the potential benefits are huge. Then he looked at the female officer beside him. Nanju noticed the gaze, and stretched out his hand generously and said, Nanju, a member of the Southern Guard District, a student of the Imperial Capital Military Mage Academy, is the same age as you. Hi, I'm Liu Jun, a student of Pearl Academy. Liu Jun shook hands lightly and then let go with a thoughtful look on his face. Nanju was also someone he knew well. According to the original timeline, she was the main member of the national team in the national battle 2 years later. She won a spot from the brutal Southern Guard District competition and was also one of the only 3 players with a military background. The current cultivation base is about the middle level of the dual system. The battle of the national government is not only a struggle between young people, universities, and countries, but also a negotiation of the interests of the major factions. The quota is determined by the number of votes, weight on hand. The candidates who can be on stage are all outstanding people, and they are backed by interest groups. The recommendation that Zhu Meng mentioned just now is a vote. According to his understanding, Zhu Meng holds 2 votes, which come from different sources of political energy. As for the national team, 3 votes can directly select members of the reserve team, and 4 votes can directly lock the main force. From this point, we can know how important Zhu Meng is. If he can win 2 votes, he is only half a step away from making a reservation. Of course, Zhu Meng's intention is only to be optimistic, and it's almost the same to give 1 vote, and he has to do his best to perform. This Nanju came to in turn for the purpose of voting. As for the Battle of the Kingdom, Liu Jun had thought about it and decided to participate. The rewards were too tempting. It would not be a problem to earn a few starlinks in the process, but that's for another story. He nodded to Nanju, chatted with each other, and not long after, he saw several reinforcements sent by Zhu Meng. Liu Jun was dumbfounded. What kind of strange reinforcements are these? On the other side, when Zhu Meng returned to the command post, other hunter officers came over and asked, My lord, but something went wrong, and you need to go out personally. It's nothing. He stopped, and pondered again. Help me collect information about Mr. Liu, and call Goldman over by the way. The subordinate nodded without disturbing, turned and left, and approached after a while holding a stack of materials, followed by the fisherman mage, whose name was Gao Sheng. Zhu Meng flipped through the documents and left Goldman's sacks aside. The mage Gao Sheng, who was dressed as a fisherman, looked indifferent, sitting carelessly on a chair with his legs crossed. Seeing this, Zhu Meng looked disgusted and focused his attention on the information. He couldn't help being surprised that the level of confidentiality of this information has reached the level of a member of parliament, and he just had enough. When he finished reading and closed it, he took a deep breath and murmured to himself, It turns out that Bocheng and the Black Church in Shanghai are the ones who suppressed the Black Church. Normally, Zhu Meng was busy with disaster relief in various places, and didn't pay much attention to the affairs of the middle and lower levels. Now he realizes that Liu Jun is not simple, he can be called young and promising. Pearl University has lost all its freshmen, fighting for a day and a night, tisk tisk tisk, the natural talent of magic power multiplication, no wonder they can hold the Songjiang ferry for so long. Zhu Meng nodded, turned his head to look at Gao Sheng and said indifferently, I have a task for you, take those white finless porpoises to Songjiang Dam to support guarding. After saying that, the fisherman Gao Sheng flew up, stared wide-eyed and said, Member Zhu, are you kidding me? First of all, I am useless, and a few galaxies are half useless. It would be nice if I can use a few middle-level magic tricks. Quote. Secondly, there is the problem of the white finless porpoise. We rescued it with great difficulty. Are you willing to send it out to die? What if we bump into each other? What is the meaning of our protection? The Yangtze River White Sturgeon Demon Tribe has been watching. Zhu Meng said indifferently, the land of Jojo doesn't raise idle monsters. No matter what the situation is, ordinary people are creating value and protecting their homes. Why should it be safe and sound? If it dies, it will die. I repeat, this is an order. You. Goldman Sachs was in a hurry. Zhu Meng, you are unreasonable. Zhu Meng said one thing without saying another, and issued an ultimatum. Either, you take your precious white finless porpoise away, or kick it out now and go to the front line of the Wangpu River. Baby fool, you will regret it. The fisherman Gao Sheng was frantic, but he was still scared. Compared to going outside to the Wangpu River to fight against the leader of the advanced stage who set off a 50-meter high wave, it was better to fish in the troubled waters of the Songjiang Ferry, where there was still a glimmer of life. Seeing Goldman Sachs walking down the reservoir and riding away quietly on the back of the white dolphin, Zhu Meng crossed his hands, propped his chin and fell into deep thought. Although the Wangpu River turmoil was only a few advanced stage leaders, he felt that it was not that simple. He simply moved the white finless porpoise secretly to a seemingly dangerous place, which was actually extremely safe. What a pleasant surprise when the crocodile and white sturgeon tribes concentrated on attacking the naval dock, but were shocked to find that there was nothing there. He believes that Lu Jun's strength is enough to protect the white finless porpoise, and secondly, the crocodile monster will most likely not send monsters to the mouth of the Songjiang Dam, killing thousands, forming a lake of blood. Any race will be heartbroken, so it will cause darkness under the lamp situation. Everything is ready. So Lu Jun saw the reinforcement army, from a distance, a middle-aged wretched uncle, slovenly and vicissitudes, riding a white dolphin more than 10 meters long swimming from the river, forming a strong contrast. It was very strange to see. Even Tang Yu and Lu Mei hesitated. Who are you? The uncle fisherman saw three beauties with different temperaments and types. His eyes lit up, and he said with a bold smile, I am a reinforcement. Songjiang Estuary River. My name is Goldman Sachs. The middle-aged fisherman smiled and said to Lu Jun, Mr. Zhu Meng asked me to come. As he spoke, he patted the white finless porpoise under his crotch, and said proudly, Don't worry, bro, my strength is mediocre, but these few white finless porpoises are warrior level, powerful, and can deal with several ordinary mid-level porpoises at the same time. High-level mage. Before coming here, Goldman Sachs had inquired about it on purpose, and found out that Lu Jun was amazing. He was the #1 person, and the video of the battle at Pearl Academy was brushed up by him, and he regarded it as amazing, so he decisively hugged his thigh. Warrior. Lu Jun lowered his head and took a serious look at this creature. It is more than 10 meters long, and its whole body is white and smooth. It is not fish scales, but rubber-like elastic and flexible. Its round head is black and shiny. The eyes look quite cute. Seeing this, he felt a little strange. The water nebula was a little touched, and under the spiritual perception, the huge white finless porpoises were lively and curious about human beings, rather than full of tyrannical and bloodthirsty emotions like demons. Lu Jun was surprised and said, You have the ability to control water. Isn't it your contract beast? Some kind of animal tame? Huh. Goldman scratched his head and said, It's not animal taming either. Monster. Lu Mei was taken aback, raised her vigilance, pulled her younger brother Lu Jun back a few steps and said, Are you sure this is reinforcements? Goldman Sachs opened his mouth to speak, but he didn't know how to explain it. Nanju on the side said, Let me tell you, this is a military secret. Since Counselor Zhu Meng has sent you here, it means that you are allowed to know whether you have heard of the white finless porpoise demon. According to Nanju, an insider, Lu Jun and the three finally knew the ins and outs. Lu Mei was quite weird. She had never seen an untamed demon tribe take the initiative to seek refuge with humans, and this caused a small flood in the Yangtze River. Tang Yu remained silent, as if thinking of something. Lu Jun was not surprised by this. He rubbed his chin and found that he did not remember the original book, but he did after thinking about it. There are many different aspects of the real world, and there are so many characters that Mo Fan's perspective cannot cover them all. Besides, he glanced at the few white finless porpoises in the river who were spitting water and playing with each other because they were bored. There were only a few little monsters. How long it would take to reproduce and form a tribe again. So the four of them simply ignored Goldman Sachs bragging about the underwater troops, unless unscientific means were used. Lu Jun asked curiously, How did you hook up with these white finless porpoises? The human family group is extinct, and the remaining species take the initiative to seek refuge with you. It's a long story. Goldman stepped ashore on the flexible body of the big white dolphin, lit a cigarette and sighed. I was seriously injured in my early years, and I was half disabled. I don't know where I heard about it. Monsters, after death, their corpses can be turned into white jade glue. It is said that it can nourish the body and even repair the incomplete magic system. Lu Jun heard a very common story. Goldman Sachs decided to hunt demons, but even if he found the white finless porpoise, there was no such thing as by po point paste. He felt cheated and wanted to leave. As a result, on the way back, he was attacked by a white sturgeon and nearly fell into the water to die. It was the white finless porpoise that saved him. This made Goldman Sachs bond with the white dolphin demon, and then he began to visit and investigate, and found that this kind of monster is actually relatively close to human beings. To be precise, it is thankful that they cannot interfere with each other. Fishermen villages living within the territory of the white porpoise will secretly raise this kind of monster, and then after entering the river, even if they encounter a monster and fall into the water, they can still be fished out by the white finless porpoise. Those fishermen didn't dare to report to the government and kept it hidden until today. Goldman Sachs specialized in researching the white finless porpoise purely out of interest, and wanted to use this monster to develop it into an excellent water-taming animal, which is a blank field in China. After the outbreak of the Yangtze River's small flood season, the white finless porpoise was strangled, and the blood-stained entire section of the Yangtze River was evacuated by the flood. Only Goldman Sachs made an emergency move and saved a few seeds. So I don't know what Zhu Meng thinks. Gao Sheng sighed. Bringing the white finless porpoise here, although the combat power of a few generals does have a great effect on the local battlefield, it is inferior to the significance of research. It's been a long way, and the imperial capital doesn't lack those warrior-level combat power. Lu Jun rubbed his chin, probably understood Zhu Meng's meaning, hesitantly pointed to the dam reservoir where the river flows into, and said, "Is there a possibility that we don't lack the strength of those generals?" Gao Sheng didn't understand what Lu Jun meant. He urged a few playing white dolphins to continue upstream, but he smelled an increasingly strong smell of blood, and the river turned reddish, as if some vermilion dye had been dumped upstream. Flow down. Wait a minute, Goldman Sachs knew a lot from the battlefield. He looked dazed, and hurriedly drove the white finless porpoise to move forward. Immediately afterwards, the white dolphin he sat on refused to move forward, and his fat body trembled slightly. However, Goldman Sachs has already seen the lake of blood in the dam reservoir, and the corpses of crocodile demons 7 or 8 meters thick are densely piled up, at least thousands of them. He was quite shocked, and instantly understood Zhu Meng's meaning. It turned out that he came here for refuge. The most dangerous place is the safest, avoiding the frontal battlefield. Goldman Sachs praised. You are young and promising, and you can easily do what you can do at a high level. Then we will leave it to you. It's okay. Lu Jun nodded, and Nanju beside him was silent, and he had already guessed the intention of the counselor. Then, the 5 people and several demons guarded the Songjiang Dam for more than 10 days. It's just that everyone was shocked to find that there were very few crocodile monsters coming to this ferry. At most, a small group of crocodile monsters who got lost on the march came here and were killed by Lu Jun. In the direction of the Wangpu River, the general attack of the monsters was launched. There were flashes of thunder in the sky, and dull thunder bursts came. 9 thunder halberds pierced the sky. Human mages are fighting against the demon clan. Lu Jun and the others stared from a distance, took a deep breath, and couldn't participate. It belonged to the ultra-level battlefield. Soon, after a few hours, the thunder light faded away, and the raging tide in Songjiang subsided, and everything returned to calm, almost as before. The news came that a white sturgeon of the sub-lord appeared in the Wampoa demon and attacked the dock by surprise. Although the base was destroyed, the demon also paid the price, and the sub-lord was suppressed and killed by Counselor Zhu Meng on the spot. At present, this section of the Yangtze River has calmed down. It depends on the actions of Jinling. The hunters and soldiers from all walks of life relax and count the losses. As a result, the rumors that Lu Jun was guarding alone gradually spread. After all, Zhu Meng rushed to the Songjiang Dam in a hurry and was noticed by many people. Afterwards, some officers verified the battle results and counted the corpses of the hunted monsters. I know this person. The Qingtian Monster Hunting Institute has had a hard time with the Black Vatican before. He is a ruthless person. It's amazing. I'm still a student. It is said that I have been appreciated by the counselor Zhu Meng. I'm so envious. Look at her 19 years old, and look at your 19 years old. The hunters chatted and made Lu Jun famous in the group of Modu. There was a TV station in Shanghai who was in charge of reporting the disaster. It was a bright story, and it guarded the dam alone for 10 days and nights, and it was a very positive story. Not long after, news came from Jinling again that more than a dozen super-level mages joined forces to injure Mr. Crocodile, and the small flood season in November finally came to an end. The defensive line of the Demon City was withdrawn one after another, and Lu Jun was finally able to count his harvest. In more than 10 days, he hunted and killed more than 1,000 servant-level monsters and 20 or 30 warrior-level monsters. 10 pieces of servant spirits were synthesized before and after, and the complete 4 pieces, that is, 14 pieces. Among them, 7 spirits have been upgraded to the extremely practical skill of Shuiyu Xuanjiao, and the remaining 7 depends on the situation. Lu Jun thinks that there is no need to sell the servant-level spirits, and the corpses killed in this battle will be rewarded. So they got together a few tens of millions. By the Songjiang Dam, several people said goodbye. Goodbye. Goldman stopped and said, "Little brother, I will trouble you this time." Lu Jun didn't care too much, he was more curious about the idea of the underwater troops. Familiar with the general trend of the future, he knew that the Kraken invasion required an underwater force to protect it, and the ability to control water was the most important thing, so he asked, "What are you going to do in the future? Where are you taking these white finless porpoises?" "I don't care about Zhu Mang, so I'll take it back to the Pearl Academy to study with those laboratory professors. Anyway, there are specialties in the art industry, and it is very rare for the white finless porpoise to get close to humans. The value lies in that." Goldman Sachs was open-minded and waved, "Little brother, will meet later." Lu Jun looked at the back of the other party leaving, and shook his head, wondering if there would be a chance to meet each other in the future. If you go to the Pearl Academy, it seems that you can do it anytime. Nanju on the side is about to leave too. Her cooperative battles in the past few days have been extremely tacit and comfortable. As a magician of the sound department and plant department, she is steady, with strong field control ability, and cooperates with Lu Jun's curse department and mind department. Anyone who comes is closed squinting. "I'll see you later." Nanju's heroic figure stretched out her slender palms and stared at her beautiful eyes. "I didn't enjoy hunting monsters enough this time. I look forward to working with you next time. I hope to see you in the Battle of Guofu." "Thank you." Lu Jun shook his hand lightly, nodded and said, "See you in the Battle of Guofu." The two young people are high-spirited and have absolute confidence in themselves. The primary election will not fail them. After Nanju and Gao Sheng got along for a short time, they separated, and Lu Jun was left in the same place. Tang Yu pursed her lips, walked in front of Lu Jun with swaying steps, and embraced gently with open arms. At this moment, Lu Jun was caught off guard, his face was pressed into his warm embrace, his body smelled fragrant, and his heart skipped a beat. At the same time, he remembered the scene in the hotel, which was very exciting. His sister Lu Mei was still watching. "Take care of yourself." Tang Yu's beautiful face was rosy and she let go, and said softly, "Don't think about it, this is just my sister's farewell to my brother. I'm going back to Hangzhou." Lu Jun scratched his head and glanced at Lu Mei who was beside him. His sister's expression was half a smile, which made people feel guilty. After finishing speaking, Tang Yu turned around and left. She didn't think about how to get along with Lu Jun, and being a sister is pretty good. "Yes." Lu Mei smiled and said, "You have more and more friends." He coughed lightly, and changed the subject, "Go and get someone to dissect the corpse. You can't waste materials. If you have a little over 1 billion, you've got it all together. When the time comes, contact the Judgment Council and buy a galaxy vein." Lu Mei nodded lightly, and whispered in a voice that no one could hear, "Thank you for your hard work." Not long after, people from the military came over, settled the materials on the spot, and rewarded them for meritorious deeds. Lu Jun also saw a few interview cars marked with official TV stations coming, and a few reporters were filming in the distance. This blood lake piled up with corpses is really shocking, and it can best reflect the cruelty of the battlefield. The piecemeal finishing work lasted for 3 days, and the materials were barely settled. Lu Jun clocked in 40 million on his card, which was obviously a high price. As soon as the two siblings got the money, they quickly bought the galaxy vein, which was not available in the market, but the two made a lot of contacts, no matter Tang Yu's trial council, Dean Xiao's Pearl Academy, or Old Man Bao's Qingtian hunting can get it all. Even Zhu Meng, Mu Nujiao and other members of the parliamentary world have channels. After spending 100 million yuan, the small coffers of the two of them dried up in an instant, and they returned to before liberation overnight. In the bedroom of Jinyuan apartment, Lu Mei held a box in her hand, with a galaxy vein in the center. There is a big goose egg, shaped like a diamond, but more crystal clear than a diamond. It is dotted with countless dense light spots. If you look closely, you will find that they are as beautiful and bright as a galaxy. There is a huge gap between Ningyun and Xinghe. It is almost impossible for a human mage to break through the barrier with his own strength. Either the pulse of the galaxy breaks through, or the magic weapon of the galaxy. As for the power of the totem that Mo Fan and Zhao Manting encountered later, it is not something ordinary people can find. Lu Mei was a little nervous. Seeing this, Lu Jun comforted her and said, "Don't put too much pressure on it, just let nature take its course. Anyway, I'm just at the middle level, and I'm far away from the high level. At worst, I'll chip in and buy a copy." Hoo. My sister took a few deep breaths, then went back to the room and said firmly, "It must be successful." While the two siblings were practicing in seclusion, reports of the small flood season in the capital came out, which caused a great stir. In the dilapidated neighborhood on the outskirts of the Magic City, Mo Fan walked out of the cramped bedroom after hard training, turned on the TV, and watched the news on the screen indifferently. But when Mo Fan saw the figure of Lu Jun who appeared on the screen for a few seconds, he couldn't help but wiped his eyes, turned back to carefully identify it, and finally saw it clearly, slapped his thigh, and said, "Old Lu, this guy is really a role, when did you become so majestic?" On the TV, there is a picture of Lu Jun standing on the dam, with a sea of corpses and blood behind him, and his stern face is full of killing and decisiveness. On the other hand, Xu Ziyading's family moved to live in Shanghai. When his parents were watching the news on the local station, Xu Ziyading passed by and accidentally glanced at him. He also saw the picture of Lu Jun, and it was said that he was approved by the counselor Zhu Meng. He said with emotion, "It's really getting better and better." Last time, Xu Ziyading had heard a little about Lu Jun's hard-nosed Black Vatican, because he paid attention to the Pearl Academy, and even witnessed the miracle of the fierce battle in the Colosseum for a day and a night, and recalled the scene at the Shifeng Mountain outpost. Lu Jun's reputation has long been a legend in Tianlin High School, spread among different classes, lamenting the huge gap. It's just that Xu Ziyading didn't know that his fate was changed because of Lu Jun's interference, and he didn't know about the battle to protect Bo City. The benefactor and sword fairy everyone was talking about was Lu Jun. In the streets and alleys of the Magic City, there are overwhelming publicity stories about hunters staying on the front line for 10 days and 10 nights, passing through the house 3 times without entering, and so on. 3 days later, the turmoil of the Yangtze River crocodile gradually subsided. A strong fluctuation suddenly came from Jinyuan apartment, and the airflow in the surrounding high-end residential area became chaotic for a while. Gusts of wind hit, causing the youthful and beautiful female college students on the street to scream, clutching their dresses, and even so, a pair of white, tender and round long legs were also revealed. Not only young students, but also beautiful white-collar workers in silk stockings and ladies in cheongsams, with different temperaments and different leg shapes, either shy or generous. All the male students on the side of the road feasted their eyes and clasped their hands together, thanking the evil wind. In the apartment, Lu Jun immediately sensed the change in his sister's room, and the majestic wind element gathered. He said ecstatically, "The wind element is high level, it's a success." The door of the room opened. Lu Mei stood on the ground with both feet, floating lightly, holding a white whirlwind in her white jade hands, her pretty face and mouth curled up into a smile, looking glamorous and charming. She snorted haughtily, "The wind element is high level, as long as you have hands." Quote. Seeing this scene, Lu Jun leaned forward, his heart skipped a beat, and he couldn't help reaching out to hug his sister's slender but plump waist. During this hug, Lu Mei's breath became short of breath, and she could no longer maintain the elemental control. She fell down and leaned on her younger brother. Lu Jun was immediately stunned. The whole person couldn't help taking a breath. The weight in his hands suddenly increased, but it was still within the bearable range. Snapped. Lu Mei was extremely shy. She pushed her younger brother away with one hand, and said angrily, "Why are you hugging my waist all of a sudden? It's a little itchy." Lu Jun's tender body left, and Lu Jun scratched his head with a little regret in his heart. it's nothing, I just feel that you float like a figure, so I couldn't help but touch it. Maybe he only took the initiative when facing his sister. Before Lu Mei could speak, Lu Jun changed the topic and said, "Sister, what are you planning to awaken in the third high-level system?" The third element. Sure enough, Lu Mei shifted her attention, crossed her arms and mused, "I lack attack means, or the third element should awaken the fire element, and at the same time, it is more restrained by plant mages and some plant monsters. The two of us together are basically all-rounders." Fire element. Yes. Lu Jun was thoughtful, and thought of a certain person, Zhang Feng, the flame witch from Dunhuang Burning Plains, who had already turned into a different kind of flame holy spirit, who was definitely the most dreamed companion of a fire mage. In the future, a super level, a monarch, the combination of the two is simply invincible. After that, he asked about his sister's high-level control of the wind system. He had already had some ideas, which might improve the combat power of the wind system and create unique self-created magic. After all, you can't treat one more favorably than another. I have communicated with Ding Yumian, and now that Lu Mei's control has reached the standard, I can also discuss it. Lu Mei frowned and said, "There is indeed a qualitative change, but it is still far from the domain. There are 343 stars in the galaxy. To construct 7-star maps, it may take about half a year to use high-level magic." "It doesn't matter," Lu Jun said with rich thoughts. "You are controlling Xingzi while groping for changing skills. I have an idea to compress the middle-level magic into whirlwind in the hand. Once it explodes, the instant power will definitely not be weaker than the minimum standard high-level magic." "Huh," Lu Mei was a little interested, "tell me." "I think so, step by step." Lu Jun mentioned the ideas of compressed air cannon, miniature tornado, and gathering energy. This belongs to the compression miniaturization route. The difficulty is progressive in order, and the power is also the same. The first two, one pays attention to instant and quick release, does not seek high power, interrupts others to control the stars, and the other is similar to the whirlwind shuriken, a whirlwind in the palm of your hand. The reason why the power of the mid-level wind disc is mediocre is that the density is not enough, the magic is loose, and if it is compressed and exploded, it must have good power. In the end, it is actually the initial combination of rock-type and wind-type mana, which increases the airflow density, so that a ray of air can penetrate the steel plate. The other route is to amplify influence, which is to manipulate the air currents in the sky. In his opinion, many wind mages are too small. There are air circulations all over the French world. If the control can be enlarged to a certain extent and slightly distort a piece of atmospheric circulation, the impact it will have can be called extermination. Rising sea levels and melting glaciers are trivial matters. Of course, this kind of control over the wind element may not be able to be achieved by combining the victims of the wind element, the heavenly species, and the forbidden spell, but it is still possible to change a city as small as to affect a country so that its weather will be smooth. Here I have to feel sorry for Wu Ku, who is obviously a talent that can take the right path, but he is doing bad sewer garbage. In the future, the sea level will rise, and large areas of coastal farmland will be eroded, leaving only the desolate western regions to produce food. If one has the ability to call wind and rain, it is a strategic talent, and several forbidden spells must be closely guarded. For Jojo, the Kraken invasion is an opportunity. With the help of the strong ocean monsoon, the environment in the west can be reversed in one fell swoop. It doesn't need to be exaggerated. As long as it reaches the level before the Han Dynasty, Dunhuang will be filled with pearls, the ancient capital Lois will restore water and soil, and rebuild a northeast Great Wall. Granary is not a problem. By the way, the Yellow River has recovered into a long river, with abundant water flow and resumed shipping. Tisk tisk tisk, this may be a prosperous age, and the person who made such a feat is undoubtedly greater than Qin Shi Huang. Lu Jun thought for a while, secretly set his goal, glanced at Lu Mei, who was a little confused, and sighed that he had broken his heart for his sister. At present, my sister's wind element is doomed to be far away from achieving such a result, but let's take it step by step. First take the route of miniaturization and then increase the combat effectiveness. So the fire element and the wind element are properly arranged. As for the rock element, Lu Jun knows that there is another opportunity, that is nudging, casting the rock element to devour seeds. Just follow Mo Fan's route, but the details of the effect are slightly different. Anyway, Mo Fan originally only used half of the Najing, and the other half was in the hands of Appas. The future is uncertain, so grab it and it's over. Little snake snake cries JPG. Lu Jun of the 3 series has planned the route, looking at his sister full of love. Lu Mei looked puzzled, seeing her younger brother's appearance, pinched his cheek. What are you thinking? It's nothing, he said. Congratulations, congratulations, you practice what I said, and consolidate your cultivation by the way. I'm back to school. Let's celebrate together after class. Got it, my sister said indifferently, go to school. Seeing this, Lu Jun went to school with peace of mind. Today he made an appointment with Ding Yumian to sharpen his spiritual realm, and the 7 servant level stars stored in the White Tiger Pendant, to see if he can confirm the hypothesis, human intervention to shape the form of the elementary level 4, click come up with a useful skill. Not long after, he and Ding Yumian met in the school's hidden back mountain grove. The two walked side by side on the shady path, and the woman beside her was graceful, wearing a white dress that clings to her plump body, outlining her perfect figure with protruding front and back. Ding Yumian's face was a little red, and she heard the sound of tisk tisk, swallowing saliva between the passionate kisses of smelly couples in the grove, accompanied by panting from time to time. It seems that I went to the wrong place, why don't we change to another place? Lu Jun was silent, scratched his head and said, he and Ding Yumian walking on this road look like a couple. After a while, the two left the area as if fleeing, and after searching for a while, they came to a quiet hilltop, sat under the shade of a tree, faced each other and closed their eyes. Ding Yumian said softly, Mr. Lu, are you ready? I'm coming in. This remark is very arrogant, but it is indeed a serious matter. Yes. Lu Jun concentrated his thoughts, controlled the first level 3rd level stars of the psychic system, and activated the wall of the soul. In the spiritual world, one transparent high wall after another was cast, layered on top of each other, crystal clear and jade-like, sturdy. After his spiritual realm reached the peak of the 2nd realm, the power of the 1st level magic increased greatly, and he had a great advantage against the spiritual mages of the same level. It's a pity, it's nothing in front of a pervert like Ding Yumian. Buzz buzz. The beautiful eyes of the woman in the white skirt stared at her, her forehead glowed, and a huge amount of spiritual power rushed out instantly, pouring into the heart of the man in front of her. Lu Jun only felt a strong weight leaning down, and his head buzzed. Since it wasn't an attack, what came was not a stabbing pain, but a dizziness, as if a mountain was being crushed. Bang bang bang. A series of noises burst out, one transparent crystal wall after another in his spiritual world was ruthlessly crushed, and the behemoth was raging like a bulldozer. However, Lu Jun resisted the oppressive force, barely managed to control the stars, and released the uninterrupted elementary wall of the soul. The transparent wall shattered in the first second, and a new wall of the soul was born in the next second, springing up continuously and endlessly. Of course, Ding Yumian's mental thoughts are also continuous and kept at a certain level. Even in addition to the mental shock, it is also accompanied by some spiritual confusion and emotional induction. In the past few months, she has also benefited a lot from having Junlu as a sandbag. Her control over her mind has soared, and her mind invasion is pervasive, making it impossible to guard against. To put it bluntly, the game between two people is a high-end game, and ordinary middle-level spiritual mages can't get involved at all. The two strands of spirit are intertwined, like two armies, intertwined, catching each other and fighting each other, one defending and the other attacking. Lu Jun guarded his mind, mobilized resources calmly, and occasionally threw out some less important strongholds to attract enemy troops. If a strand of enemy troops breached the strongholds, they would be affected by self-explosion and become chaotic. On the opposite side, Ding Yumian's pretty face was blushing, and she glared at Lu Jun angrily. These nodes are useless memories. Before, they were curse-type nightmares in disguise. After finding out that they were useless to her, they were replaced with a lot of them. Yellow waste. Looking at Lu Jun's expressionless face, she was so angry that her teeth itched. How could someone be so shameless and thick-skinned? And how to make the accumulation of waste materials endless, without repetition. Teacher Ding. Sensing the little girl's emotions, Lu Jun said solemnly, "Didn't you teach me that the psychic department should attack the weakness of human nature? This is your weakness." After all, he couldn't help laughing. He never thought that there would be a woman with such a pure heart. In the past, my sister and the girls I knew were dirtier than many men, but they were reserved on the surface. Perhaps it was because Ding Yumian had closed her mind since she was a child and protected her very well, so she ran away after being slightly stimulated during the beast fighting competition. Ding Yumian groaned, but gradually got used to it. He was no longer caught off guard like the first time, he was able to wait calmly, and at the same time he learned a lot of strange knowledge. Blushing. Sometimes she wondered if she was polluted, and she only blamed Lu Jun for leading her badly. When Ding Yumian broke through the layers of spiritual walls in one breath, the front was empty and there was no obstacle, revealing her calm mind. She suddenly withdrew her mind, and returned to her forehead like a wave, kindly not touching the memory and secrets of the other party. It's your turn. Then I'm coming in, be careful. On the other side, Lu Jun nodded, recovered his mana, controlled the Xingzi, had an initial mental shock, ran a wave of thoughts, condensed into a sword, broke through the barrier, and pierced into Ding Yumian's spiritual world. This time it was extremely smooth. After several months of training, his spiritual sword has reached the point where it can gather and disperse him permanently, and it can be condensed at any time. It's just that Lu Jun is quite strange. It went well. Immediately afterwards, his consciousness seemed to come to a mysterious world, and he saw, on a vast and boundless heart lake, a magnificent palace with sharp edges and corners, and row upon row was seated on the lake. The surface was transparent and crystal clear, like a crystal dragon palace. And the calm and clean lake is like a mirror, reflecting the reflection of the palace. Seeing this, Lu Jun was dumbfounded, and a sword energy of the mind like a swimming dragon hovered around, unable to make a move. He gritted his teeth and decided to be reckless. A ray of sword light cut on the gap in the gate of the palace on the lake, and kept prying for a long time before barely breaking in. Stepping into the palace, before he could be happy, he saw a wide corridor until it was completely dark at the end, with walls on both sides and a row of room doorways densely arranged in the depths. Moreover, Lu Jun was keenly aware that even if the surrounding rooms were opened, it would be another unfathomable corridor, and the rooms were changing all the time, which made people overwhelmed. The external defense of the palace is fine, but the interior is simply a spiritual maze that traps people forever. There is no need to play. He resolutely admitted defeat. The gate of the palace opened, and this idea returned to the body. The moment Lu Jun opened his eyes, he was shocked and said, You have really turned into a maze of the mind. Hearing this, Ding Yumian smiled slightly and nodded. Wait, Lu Jun thought of something, and said in disbelief, Have you been promoted to a higher level? Ding Yumian said casually, Well, I broke through a few days ago, and my spiritual realm is still at the 6th realm, which is a little bit closer to the high realm. He suddenly realized that it is no wonder that the spiritual world is so vast and can accommodate such a huge and complicated conception of the spiritual palace. Only advanced mind control abilities can be built. 19-year-old high level. Lu Jun's expression is complicated, but after thinking about it, it is very suitable for the situation of a person suffering from a spiritual disaster. It should be noted that Qin Yuer is 17-year-old high level, and this kind of progress is considered slow in comparison. Ding Yumian's progress was not clearly stated in the original work, but judging from the awe-inspiring power of the vengeful soul after his death, it is about 26 years old and the super-level cultivation is complete. The current progress should be faster than before. After all, before meeting him, Ding Yumian was in spiritual internal friction, literally meaning, multiple souls suppressed each other, unable to condense into one breath, and set off towards a common goal. This is the importance of setting goals. In addition, the victims of disasters have something to give up, and often the talent of that department will squeeze the living space of other galaxies. For example, Mu Ningxie has a sluggish summoning department, and Qin Yuer simply only has an ice department. Original. Ding Yumian was a little better. He cleverly divided the source of the soul into multiple parts. One soul type mastered one magic system, and the fire element is currently under the control of the revenge soul type. And the constructed spiritual palace is double. The reflection under the lake is another soul. One spiritual maze is destroyed, and another one may be cracked by a super mage. At least Lu Jun is out of control. He is usually hanged and beaten. Ding Yumian noticed that Lu Jun's eyes were bright. He couldn't help laughing and said, You want to learn? Coach, I want to learn. He nodded quickly. Once this ability is cultivated, the psychic system will be completed. The psychic maze is only the first step to protect the spiritual world of the body. When the second step is released, it will trap everyone, even a whole city of people. Forget it. Ding Yumian changed her voice and said playfully, you can't learn it. Lu Jun was taken aback for a moment. The other party has indeed changed a lot during this time. Then he resolutely begged pitifully, don't, my good sister, I was wrong before, you have a lot of adults, let me tolerate a little bit of my brother's mistakes. Ding Yumian said earnestly, the idea of the spiritual palace you mentioned requires a huge amount of mental power and fine control. The premise is that the victims have talents and multiple souls. Hearing this, Lu Jun had an idea. I'm definitely not talented, but maybe I can make up for it with magic skills. What do you think? Ding Yumian asked curiously. She admired Lu Jun a lot. This person of the same age has many weird ideas and is talented on the road of cultivation. She has benefited a lot. Once the mind labyrinth is established, with the high-level magic of the mind system spirit concentration, she can alone contain the super-level mages who are new to non-spiritual magic. This is not an exaggeration, and there are two premises, and it is not too much. It should be noted that a wanted criminal named Ghost Woman, pursued by the Dunhuang military, was only at the peak of a high-level cultivation base. When she made a move in the original book, she instantly controlled 8 high-level mages, and 2.5 feet stepped into the supernatural power. At the peak of the high-level level, there is still room to deal with Mo Fan, Xingxia and other mid-level mages. For those who suffer from spiritual disasters, they will not be weaker than the other party. It can be said that the high-level cultivation of the mind-type mages has a great advantage at the same level, so powerful that they are abnormal, and they will not be beaten back to their original form unless they face the same type mind mages. In the later stage of the team, there is no psychic mage in charge, so don't touch porcelain. Soon, Lu Jun told Ding Yumian the idea, and said, you help me artificially shape the elementary level 4 magic, and condense the effect of multiple souls. Ding Yumian was a little ignorant, unable to figure out what it meant, and tentatively asked, you are a cunt, I am me, even if you want to artificially create a specific skill effect, you can do it yourself, what I can do, at most, it can be used as a reference template. Hearing this, Lu Jun chuckled and said, it's small, the layout is small. Let me ask you, he said, aren't you a high-level person? Can you control the mind, will, and even actions of others with the soul-controlling skills you have mastered? Yes. Ding Yumian nodded, vaguely understanding what Lu Jun wanted to say. Lu Juntu smiled poorly and said, or your consciousness can possess my body, control my spiritual nebula, and create multiple souls. Genius. Ding Yumian woke up, and he really admired Lu Jun's whimsy more and more in his heart. Ordinary people's spiritual talent and control are not enough, but it doesn't matter, you can ask God to fight. Even Lu Jun doesn't even need to study, he hangs up the phone to practice directly, and hides his consciousness to watch the boss manipulate his body, and then let the talent turn into instinct and muscle memory, and naturally create the desired magical effect. Including the later advanced spiritual palace, heart eyes, fugue taishu and other skills, you can use this kind of enlightenment to learn, which is much better than traditional teacher teaching and students trying to imitate. Just kidding, do you really think that Lu Jun's teasing of Ding Yumian's external cheats is so superficial? Just follow the other party's results and study hard on your own. In that way, you will never be able to catch up with each other for the rest of your life. Lu Jun prefers soft food to hard food. Watch it, Ding Yumian uses it like this, I will only demonstrate it once. Of course, only those suffering from spiritual disasters can do this. Ordinary high-level spiritual mages, the magic spiritual control can indeed temporarily control people's limbs and release magic. But wanting to finally control every inch of other people's body muscles, nebula mana, and mental power, is nothing but a dream. Ding Yumian understood the situation, blushed and nodded, let me try. This degree of control is basically equivalent to stuffing her entire soul into Lu Jun's body, and the only embarrassment is self-knowledge. I don't know that the waste that Lu Jun exported raised her threshold, or she trusts him so much that she is willing to try it. On the lawn, Ding Yumian sat upright, mobilizing his mental power to control the high-level constellations. Normally, ordinary people need several months to master and release high-level magic, just like Lu Mei and Tang Yu. However, if a mage with a high spiritual realm does not consider proficiency, if he can connect through bumps and bumps, it is almost useless in battle. For Ding Yumian, this is enough, she only needs the medium of high-level magic soul controlling. Buzz buzz. Her powerful thoughts, accompanied by the majestic transparent mind and magic energy, poured into Lu Jun's body. The original body did not collapse, and the awakened revenge soul took over for a short time. At this time, Lu Jun only felt his eyes go dark, and his consciousness was squeezed into a small corner of the spiritual world, like a ghost pressing a bed, knowing, seeing, touching, but unable to control his body. Beside it was occupied by a giant-like consciousness, and there was a strong and dangerous aura coming from it. But he didn't struggle, suppressed the instinct of resistance, stayed in place quietly, and watched Ding Yumian's actions. On the other side, Ding Yumian had other perceptions. Her consciousness was stuffed into a different kind of body, which was heavier but full of strength and vitality. She saw the gorgeous star field in the spiritual world. Platinum, blue, dark green, and transparent nebulae are intertwined and radiate with each other. Ding Yumian didn't go to peep, her consciousness was concentrated in the transparent nebula of the psychic system. To be precise, she could only control the mana of the psychic system, and other magic nebulae could not interfere. It may be because her mind and mind fight against Lu Jun every day, and they are very familiar with each other. She opened her eyes, and raised her hand dryly. This is Lu Jun's hand, fair and slender, moistened by water magic energy, and her skin is no worse than a girl's. That's okay, the main thing is that she feels the difference under her body. Through those waste science popularization, she suddenly understands what it is, her soul flutters and fluctuates, and she is extremely shy of. Ding Yumian thought wildly for a while, then calmed down, and began to control her body to move around. In just a few minutes, she went from unnatural to extremely smooth. She knew Lu Jun's body very well. Then, she controlled the body and sat down cross-legged, meditating on the nebula, controlling the stars, mobilizing the spiritual power and the spiritual system. Lu Jun released all these permissions to her, and even assisted her from the sidelines. Soon Ding Yumian tried it for the first time, and found that it was dry like never before. Those psychic magic powers were too silent, and it was extremely difficult to handle every strand of it, and it was very weak and shallow, even worse than a small puddle. For the first time, she understood how far her talent of controlling mental power, which was as natural as breathing, was different from that of ordinary people. Fortunately, Ding Yumian's talent is there, he once had it, almost imprinted his cost ability, and slowly adapted, and gradually controlled his thoughts to become mellow. On the nebula of the transparent system, a mass of pale white light squirms and changes unpredictably. Under Ding Yumian's control, various shapes emerge one after another, just like kneading dough, like fingers. Now Lu Jun is quite surprised. With the same body, the other party's operation is like beating him. At the same time, he has also received a steady stream of feedback. When he re-enters the physical body, the control of the mind system will probably increase a bit. Okay, you guide the 7 servant level spirits into the nebula, let me try it out. Lu Jun's consciousness suddenly realized a wave of thought information, and the two of them were heart to heart, and they had a tacit understanding. He mobilized the 7 souls of the white tiger pendant to enter the nebula, and Ding Yumian was in charge of shaping it. Buzz buzz. The 7 stars swelled one after another, transforming into the first level 4, and a new wave of magic energy emerged. Based on his own experience of splitting into multiple souls, Ding Yumian seriously divided and reshaped this magic energy. I don't know how long it took. Lu Jun only felt that the oppressive force was loosened, and his consciousness surged out from the corner, taking the lead. He opened his eyes and saw Ding Yumian's beautiful and delicate face opposite, full of exhaustion. She said, "It's okay, but it is shaped by the magic of the mind system, and does not include your consciousness and soul origin. I am afraid that the actual effect will be a bit worse." Hearing this, Lu Jun didn't take it seriously. He knew well that he would definitely not be able to reach the point of having multiple souls like Ding Yumian, who was gifted by a disaster victim. After all, it's just a magic effect of the first level, 4th level. If it can be done easily, wouldn't there be a spiritual victim, and every spiritual mage can copy the talent? He didn't expect too much, but he was pleasantly surprised by the feedback from the spiritual system. The fourth level magic of the Soul-Lingi multiple personality mask. The effect is similar to that of multiple soul grids, except that the original soul is not really split into several parts, and there is no separate personality and mind, no special divinity, and the magical effects are used to construct illusory souls, one by one. In essence, the talent of the victims was far behind, but the effect presented was exactly what Lu Jun wanted. These virtual souls are like a blank sheet of paper, ready to be scribbled on and filled with content. For example, after he releases the magic of the control star, he can put layers of vests on his soul, and when the mind of other spiritual mages pokes in, what he sees will not be a platinum, blue, dark green, and transparent four-element nebula twinkling spiritual world. It is a virtual soul that Lu Jun forged. It can be a primary stardust, an intermediate nebula, 1, 2, or 3 elements, fire, ice, water, and so on. Since then, he has been safe and sound. As long as his mental state is high enough, he can go to the holy city for a visit and be inspected by several archangels, and he is also an iron good man. In addition, when Lu Jun fights with a mind mage, even if the high-level soul control hits, if the mental state is not enough, it will not be discovered that it is a virtual soul, and what is controlled is only the virtual personality on the surface. He is hiding in the deepest place, watching with cold eyes, ready to go, deadly backstab. You can also deliberately edit memories and stories. After being read by others, you can create false characters all over your body, or pretend to be a nightmare in the cursed apartment and entrap the mind mage. Generally speaking, this skill has no obvious effect on the surface, and it is specially used to deal with mind mages. At least after Lu Jun has it, he will not be too weak to fight against Ding Yumian, and he will be able to break his wrists. Even if he has worked hard to break through many spiritual walls, it is not yet known which layer of soul vest is the real him. Seeing the boy's happy face, Ding Yumian pursed her lips and said with a gentle look in her eyes, "It's fine if you think it's okay." She also had some insights and fell into contemplation. It should be known that her soul is special, and the talent of a person suffering from a spiritual disaster comes from the soul. If the soul drilled into Lu Jun's body every day, wouldn't it be possible to transform the other party's physical and mental space over time, forming a soil suitable for the talents of the victims? Coupled with Lu Jun's personal efforts, he might be able to sublimate his natural talent the day after tomorrow. Anyway, it was the first time she entered someone else's body, and she could clearly feel that her soul was constantly exchanging with the nebula of the mind, infecting the nebula of the mind system bit by bit. I don't know if this is a good phenomenon. Haha, thank you for your hard work, and I need you to accompany me to hone my will. Lu Jun thanked him from the bottom of his heart, and then said with an itch in his heart, "Why don't we do it again?" Don't get me wrong, the two are engaged in a purely heart-to-heart battle. This time, he released the fourth level magic of the elementary level of the mind, and the effect was immediate. Although the counterattack was still weak, it was barely enough for self-protection. Time passed imperceptibly. As the sun set, a man and a woman lay down side by the lawn, staring blankly at the sunset, their faces flushed under the glowing red light, and an unspeakable tacit ambiguity permeated the air. Since the soul swap, the relationship between the two seems to have broken another layer of barriers, closer than superficial lovers. After a while, Lu Jun got up, patted his buttocks, and said with a smile, "I'll go first." The woman in the white skirt stood up slowly, nodded gently, "I'll see you off." The two walked between the campuses. The background was full of burning clouds, the surrounding crowds were constantly flowing, the noise and tranquility coexisted, and they painted a moving picture of the scenery. Finally at the gate of the campus, Lu Jun waved away. Ding Yumian stood quietly and looked out, like a pure white chrysanthemum, peaceful and gentle. After a while, when he got home, he opened the door of the room and saw Lu Mei. She was wearing a conservative and majestic black dress. The thin silk dress was close to her plump body, outlining her slender figure. The elder sister seems to have been carefully dressed, with a beautiful and charming face smiling like a flower, holding the hem of the skirt and turning around, elegantly stretching out her jade hand wrapped in black gloves, and said with a faint smile, "My little prince, I will wait for you." Seeing this, Lu Jun was stunned, his eyes flashed with amazement. Today's sister is extraordinarily beautiful, mature and elegant, with charm, like a dark epiphyllum, mysterious and noble. A big sister extends her hand to invite you, who can resist? He curled his mouth and said, "Isn't it awkward?" But Lu Jun's hand still held his sister's jade hand, which was covered with a black silk glove. When he pinched it slightly, it seemed weak and boneless, and the silk was fine and smooth. Lu Mei showed a strong smile, raised her hand and said, "Where's your hand kiss gift?" Hearing this, he felt a little unnatural, and then he heard his sister snort, with a little dissatisfaction. All right, today you are the protagonist." Lu Jun nodded quickly, squeezed his sister's slender hand, lowered his head and kissed the back of her hand lightly, and said with a smile, "Good evening, my beautiful princess." Seeing this, Lu Mei's face turned red, and the wet touch on the back of her hand was itchy. She withdrew her hand, put her back behind her, pretended not to care, walked out with her feet on cool high heels, and said, "Let's go, I've booked a restaurant, my sister will bring you a good meal today." Finally, the high-level wind element, the two of them went to celebrate, and they had the right to relax while practicing. The off-road vehicle driven by Lu Mei drove Lu Jun all the way to a famous high-end restaurant. The siblings ate very happily that night. It's just that Lu Jun no longer remembers the taste of eating, only the smiling face of his sister is deeply remembered. On the way back, Lu Mei awakened the fire element by the way, taking care of the three at the same time. Nothing to say all night. In the days that followed, Lu Jun experienced such 3 points and 1 line. He learned magic knowledge theory at school to enrich himself, practiced with Ding Yumian, and discussed the control of wind magic with his sister at home. Go out to hunt monsters in rivers, lakes and seas. Facing two beauties with different temperaments every day, life is comfortable and nourishing. 2 months passed in the blink of an eye, and the first semester of freshman year ended. In the middle of every year, Pearl Academy will hold a large-scale assessment, that is, the entrance assessment, from the youth campus to the main campus. To be precise, there is no difference between grades in Mingzhu, only 2 university districts. The youth campus is just a transition, and the main campus is the competition. Students can stay in the youth campus for a period of time, which is not limited. It depends on the individual. If it exceeds 4 years, they will end their student career with a certificate of completion. This group of people is almost all elementary level mages, and the main campus is full of intermediate level mages. Any major magic court department, such as water, fire, and wind, has more than 1,000 young intermediate level mages. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.